Yeah, man.
That's hot shit right there, man.
So what we gonna do? We gonna dub.
News networks are not even getting clicks like that. So this shows like there's an opportunity for this, what we're doing here on this show.
Look up something in back check, kind of like cross reference.
I should put the.
Hey, look that shit up. That's the name of your show.
Yeah,
that's
right.
what really drew me in.
Remember, we want you to be an activist, and don't take our word for it. Look that shit up. Pulley.
We got us another hit.
Yep. EUX. I'm dyslexic. The King Chuck ENTDEUX. That's the backup page. Please check us out there. Help us out a lot. You know, like, share, and subscribe. And hope I don't get in trouble for playing that last video. I probably shouldn't have played that shit. I'm always testing the damn waters, bro. That shit gonna get me.
You are now
Who and what are we gonna complain about tonight?
You are now
This is copyright.gov, U.S. Copyright Office. More information on fair use. Fair use is a legal doctrine that promotes freedom of expression by permitting the unlicensed use of copyright-protected works in certain circumstances. Section 107 of the Copyright Act provides the statutory framework for determining whether something is a fair use and identifies certain types of uses such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research as examples of activities that may qualify as fair use. Section 107 calls for consideration of the following 4 factors in evaluating a question of fair use: purpose and character of the use, including whether the use of the commercial nature or is for nonprofit educational purposes, nature of the copyrighted work, amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole, effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. Okay, so anything I use for you guys, hit me up if you want me to remove it, edit it, or whatever. Nothing is used to infringe on anybody's intellectual property. I don't intend on doing that, and I don't intend on profiting from anyone's intellectual property. So I'm glad to edit or delete anything that's any of my videos that I've used of anybody. So that's it.
Like, you just never know, bro. Life is so precious, bro. And and people say, oh, material things aren't important, but I mean, and I get that, but at the same time, we're here.
KC, you the shit this year. Yeah, I'm the shit this year. Well, I'm riding around town, fucking shit that can feel. You the shit this year. Yeah, I'm the shit this year. And we gon' keep it moving, grooving, give you something now.
You the shit this year.
Yeah, I'm the shit this year.
What? Riding around town, bumping shit they can
Bingo,
feel.
you the shit this year.
Yeah, I'm the shit this year.
And we gon' keep it moving, grooving, give you something
Look,
now.
I'm sipping Bacardi, visualizing on the farm Ferrari.
Catch a buzz from the life that we store in the party.
I'm swag immaculate, kicking this rap shit till I'm 40.
It's like electricity, just float through your
Being easy with
body.
breezes and winding down and out, baby, I'm sorry.
Switch the game, change it up, falling off now
Picture me
hardly.
rolling Maserati with some hoes in the back.
Switching lanes, taking pictures with a bitch in my lap.
Clap your hands, everybody, if you feel this shit.
KC,
Bingo,
on the mic.
and that's it.
Take a trip down south that we call the Abyss.
I'm most curious about my silver Air Forces.
And we receiving major paper from multiple sources.
Of course, it's the bosses that handle the business.
Spice the game a little bit, cause the flavor diminished.
Like Kane and Old Dog, we society's menace.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 into the 4.
KC,
Bingo, knocking at your door. Yeah, here it is again. Let's go, KC, you the shit this year.
yeah, I'm the shit this year.
What? I'm riding around town, bumping shit they can feel.
You the shit this year.
Yeah, I'm the shit this year.
And we gon' keep it moving, grooving, give you something
KC,
now.
you the shit this year.
Yeah, I'm the shit this year.
What? Riding around town, bumping shit they can
Bingo, you
feel.
the shit this year.
Yeah, I'm the shit this year.
And we gon' keep it moving, grooving, give you something now. Attack the track like a lion, cause I'm so ferocious. When the wind blow, I fly, cause my image on posters. It be wise to decide to not try to approach us. Get burnt like bread when it's stuck in the toaster. And you hoes like clothes, I told you I fold you. In the mornings I have Folgers with my doja. I suppose it's time to smell the roses. Clear my mind, check the snakes is close.
And peep my status, my stamina, swagging on niggas just amateurs. Style stay funkin' and cannabis. It's scandalous the way these bitches try to handle us. It's city boards, ball swords, and my Polaroid camera. I want my niggas on the propaganda. Welcome to this extravaganza. Hennessy, sipping weed, smoking enhancer. Even though we know that way to go is not the answer, I won't chance the opportunity to blow this shit. Take a shot at the target, and I'm not gon' miss. Kicking, flipping, splitting, rip these rap niggas to bits. Let's go, KC, you the shit this year.
Yeah, I'm the shit this year.
What? I'm riding around town, bumping shit they can
Bingo,
feel.
you the shit this year.
Yeah, I'm the shit this year.
And we gon' keep it moving, grooving, give you something
KC, you
now.
the shit this year.
Yeah, I'm the shit this year.
What? Riding around town, bumping shit they can
Bingo,
feel.
you the shit this year.
Yeah, I'm the shit this year.
And we gon' keep it moving, grooving, give you something now. Yeah,
like that. I like
your
that,
hands
y'all.
up.
Like that. I like that.
yeah.
Like that, y'all. Like
Hit it with the whip
I
of all
like that,
back,
y'all.
y'all.
Like that, y'all. Like that, y'all.
Here it is.
Like
KC
that,
King
y'all.
Chaka.
Dime qué tú quieres, papi. ¿Quieres que lo mueva para ti? Mueve, mueve. ¿Te gusta cuando me muevo así? Así. Mueve, muevo, mueve.
We up in the place, we up in the place, we up in the place. Hey, you, make your body shake, make your body shake, make your body shake. Hey, you, we up in the place, we up in the place, we up in the place. Hey, you, make your body shake, make your body shake, make your body shake. Hop, hop, jump, skip up on the floor. If they didn't know, then we gon' let them know. Drop low, giving them a show. We gon' give them something that they never seen before. Hop, scotch, 784. Bouncing on the beat while keeping the flow. Stop, watch, freeze, then go. Cock-a-doodle-doo is what you eating off the floor. Pop, lock, do it by yourself. You know you the best, you don't need nobody else. Rock, hip, toast to success. You was born a winner, so you never nothing less. Hey, you, we up in the place, we up in the place, we up in the place. Hey, you, make your body shake, make your body shake, make your body shake. Hey, you, we up in the place, we up in the place, we up in the place. Hey, you, make your body shake, make your body shake, make your body shake. Bow, bow, rock, rock, shake, shake, wiggle, 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 wiggle.
¿Quieres, papi?
Bow, bow, rock, rock, shake, shake, wiggle, wiggle,
¿Quieres
wiggle,
que lo
wiggle.
mueva para ti?
Bow, bow. catch a fish. Hip, twist, do a finger kiss. Rocking back and forth as you make your body shift. Top, tick, do it like you sick. 2 + 4 is 6, and that's a ripper thick. Top, 6, we gon' let it rip. We got your attention and we not gon' let it slip. So hands up, move your head and know what's up. Now it's shoulders rolling while you showing them your stuff. Hey, you, we up in the place. We up in the place. We up in the place. Hey, you, make your body shake. Make your body shake. Make your body shake. Hey, you, we up in the place. We up in the place. We up in the place. Hey, you, make your body shake. Make your body shake. Make your body shake. Bow, 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 shake, shake, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Bow, 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 shake, shake, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
¿Quieres que lo mueva para ti?
Bow, 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 shake, shake, wiggle, wiggle,
¿Te gusta
wiggle.
cuando me muevo así?
Bow, 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 shake, shake, wiggle, 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 wiggle. Make you move just a little, 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 just a little.
One, two, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2. A mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. It's time to check the mic and best to bet. I'm about to wreck it to the leather. Jealous people hate but don't debate. Just check my measures. Electric by design. I even shine in stormy weather. Attempt to meddle and tether this mental treasure, and you find yourself embedded in the chasm in the desert. Thirsting for hydration, no libation, empty kettle. Take it to another level, add the bullet and the shovel. Got you on the bubble, double trouble. See you stumbled, and it's about to get repugnant like a kitten in the rumble. Quick to fluff and tumble, best be humble when we come through, cause I have you stiffing under. Mama wonder where you went to.
1, 2, 1, 2. Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2. Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah. What you gon' do? It's the KCE crew. We making you look like Fu Manchu. Proper grasshopper who with the kung fu. Cut and slice nice like Benny Hanna do. Take quick bites like the tip of a piranha tooth. Go ahead and steal my mic. Watch it blow up right in front of you. We coming to give you something good like some Beetlejuice. Give you something good like some Beetlejuice. Who do you think you are? You ain't gonna get real far. Driving your shifty car, following Diddy farts. I'ma be a Twitter star. I'ma be a Twitter star. Keep dreaming about how big you are, cause we about to pick apart everything that's in your heart. Control and leave you torn to shards. Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte. Selling junk like San Francisco. Wax on, wax off Daniel, son. Selling junk like San Francisco.
1, 2, 1, 2. Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2. Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm tripping cause my mind's gone from always seeing tragedies. Can't close my eyes cause it's around me, I just call it reality. Can't paint no perfect picture like an artist they can't sell. Is what they try to instill in me, but my pockets seem to swell. Doing it like them ghetto boys did it back in those days. And we been jamming, pippin' bun, long live UGK. And before Eminem, we had Bill and Gangsta Nip. But we don't trip unless we on the plane taking a trip. And these suckers trying to contest us, but they find out we ain't no busters. We much more than screw, we keep it gutter. Mic check 1, 2, y'all cannot touch us. We don't be causing no problem, son. Coming at me like Daniel, son. You would get defeated, wax on, wax off, out to the righteous one.
1, 2, 1, 2. That's mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. You already know. Yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2. Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Dude, I could blink my eyes and provide an entire fountain of sound effects pounding directly on your neck, having flashbacks of the tragic act back when the boom bap was replaced with pop rap or hip hop or whatever you call that. We need a lockbox or something to keep this weak pox from spreading. I'm heading outside of the outsiders, opening your mind wide. The silly rabbits are at it again, but they can't hide us. Sit tight, Mr. Hip Hop. We'll find your daughter. Ought to be easy. She emits a homing frequency. We picked it up back in 98, and we're actually surprised that it took us so long to triangulate her exact location. But congratulations, check it out. We about to get her right now. We already found the captors, trapped them and slapped them around. Just burn the hideout to the ground.
Yeah, a 1 2 1 2, mic check 1 2 1 2. Let's make it hot. A 1 2 1 2, mic check 1 2 1 2. 1 2 1 2.
Hey, 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. How you guys doing out there? How you guys feeling? Remember, we want you to be an activist. Don't take our word for it. Look that shit up. Please. The information is available. I'm feeling good, even though I'm fucking late. I really apologize for being late. I'm so sorry. Like I'm a solid 30 minutes late. I really apologize for that. I treat this like a job and I treat it serious. So I really apologize for being late. But like, I ain't gonna lie, like I totally got like a whole girlfriend now. So that's the reason why I'm late. So that's a good reason to be late, I guess. You know what I'm saying? You know, I've been able to give all my time to the show, you know, not all my time, but a lot of time to the show, researching and doing ads, editing, so forth and so on. And this whole thing has been therapy for me. And it's really, really, really good as far as that's concerned. And I can see the positive impacts that it is having on my mental state. And my confidence and so forth and so on. I was tripping about my teeth, you know. One of the reasons that made me do the show was because of my teeth, because I had the thing with my teeth. When I was a little kid, me and my sister was playing and I ended up with a chipped tooth. Just so happened that was a permanent tooth that had just grown in. I was a little kid. Plenty of caps. I was one of those kids that had like the silver cap on their tooth and stuff like that. And they kept falling out. And when I became an adult, I had issues. That tooth got super hardcore infected. And it so to the point that it fucked up the tooth next to it. So, you know, the gums were all fucked up. They said I could have died. I was all fucked up behind this shit because I was sick and I felt it. And I went and they was like, okay, we got to take all this shit. And they said I had to take both of these teeth. So that's how I ended up with this situation, which was like a couple years ago. And so, yeah, so my confidence was shot, right? As a result, I didn't really want to talk to people. I didn't want to open my mouth. I didn't really want to smile. And then it was like, okay, I could get the little, the one that you put in and take out, but that's not what I wanted, you know. Those are cheaper. I could get that. I could have done that already, but I want the permanents. So, and those are more expensive. So that's my issue. That's my dilemma. So, and I had saved up the money to do it, but I ended up spending it or whatever because my ass is crazy. And I changed my mind anyways. But the thing is, the reason why I'm telling y'all this story is because this show is what gave me confidence. Like, okay, part of the reason why I did the show was because of the tooth went out, right? Because I had already been wanting to do a podcast type deal, and I had been wanting to do it for years. But I don't know, for whatever reason, I didn't do it. So, but then my teeth got all fucked up. And then I was all like, damn, I really been wanting to do this podcast type deal. So now my teeth is all fucked up. So how am I feel about being in front of the fucking world with my teeth fucked up? So guess what that did? Guess what? With my crazy ass mind, guess what that thought led to? That thought led to, you have to do the podcast now, right now. You have to do it even though you are missing the teeth. You have to do it because you're missing the teeth. Now, I don't know. That might not make any sense to y'all. It doesn't really make any sense to me, but that's how my brain works. So that's why. And then I was driving. I literally had this kind of thought. This is how my train of thought was. And I was driving and I was coming home from wherever the hell I was doing. And I meditate while I drive. I do that a lot. I don't listen to music. I don't listen to the radio a lot of times. I don't listen to anything. I'm just fucking meditating. I do that a lot. So I'm like thinking about this, and then I'm like, okay, you know what? Fuck this. We're gonna do this today, because I'm always that guy that like once I make a decision, boom, that's it. Boom, that's it. Let's go. And that's kind of how I move. That's how I move in the world too. Because like if I decide I want something, or want to eat something, or want to do something, or whatever the hell it is, it'll be just coming up in conversation, and we'll be talking about it. It'll be like da, 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 da. And then I'm like, shit, I do want to do that. And then if I have the means and I have the time to do it, let's do that now. Like, what better time than now? Let's go. You know what I'm saying? That's how I move. So that's how my brain works. So I was driving, and then I was, like I said, I was thinking about this, and then I was like, you know what? I need to start it now. You know what I'm saying? That way I could just go ahead and just jump into it and, build from there as far as like learning about it, because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So, but, being really afraid is motivation to me. So I was super afraid. I was super afraid of being in front of the world with my teeth fucked up. I was super afraid of trying to do a podcast when I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So because of that, I was like, you know what? You got to do it now. Just do it. And so I fucking stopped at fucking Walmart. I literally was thinking, and then I was like, okay, fucking do this shit today. So what do you need? And I went and stopped at Walmart and grabbed some stuff and started the show that fucking day. Period. That's how the show started. So I just wanted to share that with y'all. So because it's related to my teeth and my confidence and all of that. And related to also like me being late today because I'm, a bit distracted. And again, like I say, the show kind of gave me confidence again, even though my teeth is fucked up. Something about this show, being able to meditate, or not meditate, but being able to like have therapy on here has got me to the point where my confidence level is kind of like, it's really not where it should be, giving what you see here. But knowing that I do this show, and I was looking at the analytics, a lot of people in India watch me, like my main fans are in India. And I'm like, man, people are watching me all over the world with my messed up teeth and my little green screen that I have, my little boo-boo ass setup. But I do kind of try to focus on good content. So that's what I told myself from the beginning of doing this show. Before I even knew anything about anything, I was like, okay, well, you want to make sure that you're covering shit that people aren't covering. You want to make sure that you're covering shit that really matters to people. You're going to make sure that you're like educating people. Just make sure that you're making good content and making sure that you keep making it better. And that's my whole fucking philosophy on this show is keep getting better, period. That's what I tell myself, period. Just keep getting better. Keep producing a better product than it was yesterday. It's like, I don't care about the views. I don't care about whatever the fuck. I know that every day I do these shows 4 times a week for like 4+ hours. Every time I do this show, every minute, moment, hour I do this show, I'm getting better at doing it because I'm focusing on getting better, because I look at the analytics, I look at the reactions of people, I talk to people, ask them questions. I do a lot to make sure that, this is continuing to go in the direction of getting better. You know what I'm saying? So that's it. That's my focus as far as this show is just getting better, period. Now, what this show is going to look like in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, I have no fucking idea. But I can tell you what, it's going to be better than what you're looking at right now today, because that is my fucking promise to myself. And I hold myself accountable. And this is not a game. So that's why I'm here. And that's why I did this whole little speech, is because I apologize for being late. I'm hurt behind it. I really do apologize for being late today. And I'm trying to explain it away even to myself, I guess. Like I said, I feel like I got a whole girlfriend now. Like, this has kind of just happened recently, and it's kind of taken a bit of my attention. And, that's fair. And I'm sure you guys listening out there would say that's fair. So that's why I was late today. So anyways, peace and love. How do y'all feel? Because I'm late, I'm missing everybody. And that's what happens every time I'm late. People think I'm not going to do the show or something. And I'm not late that much. because I'm texting this shit. Like I said, the reason why there's nobody here right now is because I'm late. It throws everything off, and that's another reason why I don't like being late. It fucking throws everything off. So it's whatever. We're gonna try to get back on the roll with this shit. So like, okay, I titled to the name of the show "Better Late Than Never" again because I freaking feel bad about being late. And I may have named the show that before in the past. Apparently, the last time I was late. I'm not late often. I usually come on early. I'm like hardly ever late because I treat this like a job. Honestly, I'm late at my job way more than I'm late on this show. Like I hardly ever late on this show. I treat this shit so serious. I'm trying to build a brand here. So, but like I said, because I'm late, that's why it throws everything off. That's why I don't have my people here. So I'm going to get into the groove here, and we will have a good show, I promise. And we're going to continue what we've been talking about. Basically, is France and colonialism and shit like that. Basically, that's the theme of this week. It's related to, what the United States is doing, what UK is doing, what France is doing, basically all the countries that chopped up parts of Africa. Because that's how we got into the state that we're in today. Because it's, you look at Africa and you look at all those countries and the shape of them and the names of them. It was a couple of European countries that came together and had a meeting and decided on that shit. That's the reason why the African map looks like the way it does today. That's the reason why this, this history is very important. It's very relevant to today. And I feel bad. I feel like I offended some people yesterday, make some people mad or whatever. But I'm here trying to educate, I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to expand your perspective. So it's going to hurt a bit, it's going to be a bit painful, because what I wanted to say was that sometimes I'm wrong, right? I'm on this show, it's in front of the world, and I really try to keep my information as accurate as I can. But still, sometimes I'm wrong. But I'll ask you guys, what are you wrong about? So, and then after I ask you the question, what are you wrong about? Then I will say, what am I wrong about? And then what am I wrong about is what my focus needs to be, because that's where all my reparations need to be. That's where all my freaking, I need to make adjustments at. Over here where I'm correct, I don't need to make adjustments. I'm good over there. Over here where I'm wrong, I need to make adjustments. So then this goes the same thing with you. Whatever you're wrong about, that needs to be your focus. Now, the issue with a lot of us is that we have a really hard time seeing it. We're blind. We're Stevie Wonder to what we're wrong about. It's really difficult. So, but if you can try to imagine or, begin to go down that road of what you could possibly be wrong about, then once you go that way, that needs to be your focus. So this is the same thing with history and the world and cultures and humanity in general. What we need to focus on is where we went wrong, what we were wrong about. So me, like I said, I feel like I was hurting people's feelings yesterday with a lot of the stuff, but I'm still finna continue down this road because it feels, it's gonna be painful. We all are this, we all have been, majority of the world are post-colonial, basically. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us have gone through this on one side or the other. So it's difficult, to deal with these things, no matter where you sit on this, no matter where you stand on it. But what actually happens matters, because that's where we got where we are. Like I said, the way that Africa is shaped, the shape of all of those countries, that is based on this shit right here. And the shape of those countries are present day. Okay? It's the map. It's a reality. So we just need to face how we got to where we are, so that we can fix this shit. That's why I'm focusing on this. Anyways, my little speech. So let me see. We played the roundup. We played a bit. You know what? I'm gonna go back to that roundup video, and I'm gonna start there. And then I'm gonna go from there. So then this will give me a chance to kind of get myself together and try to get some people in the chat. And it'll also take us back to where we was yesterday, but not repeating anything from yesterday. This is what I didn't show. I stopped here yesterday, so let's go.
Next in Vichy, the ground has been well prepared, and that point applies for the Holocaust in general. It's incremental steps. It's not Auschwitz in 1933. It's a slow sensitization to people of these issues and a slow radicalization, and that's exactly what happens in France. So if we move on to look at what the actual experience.
Wait. Slow radicalization. And then I'm sad that Pat and them are not here, because this is what I be saying all the time, and I don't think they're hearing me, because when I say slippery slope, my way of saying it is slippery slope. He says slow radicalization. So that's what happens. Like, that's the reason why we have to understand these histories, is because it can happen again, happens again. History rhymes. So if you know anything, you know that. So, understanding what happened before can help you understand what's happening now, how we ended up where we are now. But, the slow radicalization, and that's why I'm focusing on this, because it's imperative. And I feel like we're slipping backwards. I feel like we're going in the past, especially here in the United States. And the United States is dominating the world in culture. So if the United States slides backwards, the rest of the world does too.
Point to conclude this section is that the what comes next in Vichy, the ground has been well prepared, and that point applies for the Holocaust in general. It's incremental steps. It's not Auschwitz in 1933. It's a slow sensitization to people of these issues and a slow radicalization, and that's exactly what happens.
Slow radicalization
in France. So if we move on to look at what the actual experience of anti-Semitism was in wartime France, there were about 300,000 Jews in France in 1940. And to put that in perspective, there were roughly 43 million people in France. So it's a very small proportion of the population. About half of these Jews were French, so their families had been in the country for many years. And the remainder were immigrants who'd sought refuge or work in the country. Now, the French Jews were often what we might term well assimilated. So that means they were largely secular. They didn't wear traditional styles of dress. They had French accents. And that meant that foreign Jews who had perhaps Eastern European accents, who didn't speak the language, who wore traditional Jewish styles of dress, and who congregated in the immigrant quarters of major cities, it meant they were more visible and more vulnerable for what was going to happen later, because the police know where they are. Now, the Vichy regime introduced two major pieces of anti-Semitic law, which were called the Jewish statutes. But these are just the most famous. There were many anti-Semitic laws and directives and decrees, but the two most famous ones are called the Jewish statutes. So the first one is passed on the 3rd of October 1940. And what this does is it's the first law in France to discriminate against people on the grounds of race, because the Republic did not recognize different races. Or it said it didn't, at least. But
okay, so that is very, very, very important, because when I, again, like I said, I felt like I was hurting people's feelings or whatever, but the whole thing with the chattel slavery based on like skin tone and shit, that was a new thing. Like, they like to argue that, okay, yeah, there was slavery before and all of this shit was before. But no, the way the Eastern Europeans did this system, the system that they created,
it was let's call it an improvement. Let's call it an improvement. Because if you're looking at it through a capitalist point of view, it's definitely an improvement. It's like they industrialized slavery. You know what I'm saying? They made it into a generational wealth thing. Like, it was never that before, So this is a thing that we have to focus on because this is a change, So once they started, because see, one of the issues with the slavery was, how do you identify who's a slave and who's not? So that became a problem. So their fix to that problem was, slave masters look like this and slaves look like that. So we go and we get people who look like this and make them slaves, and we go get people that look like this and we make them slave masters. That way, when we walk up on the scene, we automatically know who's who and what's what. Okay? So like I say, that's an improvement, like in a capitalistic point of view. But, a lot of people would look at me like I'm crazy when I say that's an improvement. But, I'm not thinking of this in a good or bad way, you know what I'm saying? Or good and evil way, you know what I'm saying? Of course, chattel slavery was evil as far as, you know what I'm saying, you want to look at it. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying the way they were doing the system, they improved it by using this skin tone device to be able to identify who is who and what is what. This thing didn't exist before. So they created a whole new system of identifying people based on their skin tone so that they can use that as a tool to better improve the way, what they were doing.
This Jewish statute disqualifies Jews from many professions and occupations. So they can't be judges or magistrates. They can't be diplomats. They can't be senior administrators. They can't own radio companies. They can't work in film, etc. So we might be familiar with all these sorts of different restrictions from your knowledge of anti-Semitism in Nazi Germany.
In Germany, it happened over more than a decade, wasn't it? And that was what it split. That the fork got split, and it got worse and worse because as they were unable to have different jobs and things like that in Germany, and they had to register this, and then so the separation gets worse and worse and worse. So therefore, the non-Jews start seeing the Jews separately, and where they were integrated and part of it. So it all just gets worse and worse. Once you start splitting people up, then you can just see exactly how in France this situation it's pouring fuel on fire, isn't it? Because you're taking a situation that was naturally there and you're just building on it. It's just so sad.
And this Jewish statute, it only contains a single exemption, and that's for veterans of the First World War or veterans of the 1940 conflict. But Marshal Pétain himself, as you can see on the presentation, had personal input into this. So the picture at the bottom is the draft of the statute, and it shows that he's crossed out an exemption. So he made it harsher. So this is the first statute. The second statute comes in 1941 in June, and it extends the list of occupations forbidden to Jews. So it's an intensification. Now, the Germans, of course, were in the north up to late 1942, and they imposed their own requirements. And these are what we might describe as typical administrative anti-Semitism. So the requirement that you carry an identity card with Jew stamped on it, the Juif. The requirement that Jewish businesses display a sign in their window. And the Germans actually also introduce the Aryanization process, which is essentially the theft of Jewish businesses from Jews and the gifting of them to Aryan management. And this results in the theft of over 40,000 businesses in France.
Now, this should sound familiar to you guys. Like, when he's talking, I can't help but really the first thing that pops into my mind is the people that were like, when Mexico was up here in Texas and shit, and then after the Spanish-American War and the Treaty of Guadalupe, and when they were like basically taking people's land and shit, like that's what I think about. And then after that, I think about the Native Americans here in the United States area, Central America area, that were, anyways.
Now, all this meant that if you were Jewish or suspected of being a Jew, it could mean kind of professional, the end of your career, the end of your business, the end of your social and personal life. And so we have things like this appear. So I think these are interesting pictures. So on the left, you have a sign which is being placed in an Aryanized business, and it says, "We are now under new management," saying to customers, "Don't worry, we are Catholic and French here." So typically Vichyite, Catholic and French. And on the right, you have this certificate of non-membership of the Jewish race. So this was granted by the Vichy government to people who wanted to show that they weren't Jewish for whatever reason, to escape persecution or to keep their jobs. So you actually have people applying for these certificates. Now, these Jewish statutes in France and all this legislation was not required by the Nazis. It drew on this long history of anti-Semitism. And it was based on the regime's own political agenda. However, we must recognize that it was part of what Vichy understood to be the logic of collaboration.
There he goes with that fucking softening this shit up. And again, I'm sorry that I will make people upset about this, but that's the reason why they've been brushing this under the rug and they haven't really freaking talked about this and they don't really want to admit it because it's ugly. To face reality, you got to look at the ugly stuff. And the thing is, France is still really very powerful in the world. So people are scared. This guy right here, and he knows his shit. And you see he's tiptoeing on this shit.
And this is, I suppose, in a presentation of many depressing things, this is one of the most depressing, is that Vichy thought that the Jews were useful leverage with the Nazis. So they thought that if they sacrificed Jewish people or if they persecuted Jewish people, then the Germans would give them more control of domestic affairs. And what it resulted in was that Vichy just did the Germans' dirty work for them because they thought it was better that French people do it rather than Germans.
Okay, did you hear that? Do you understand the weight of that? We'd rather the French people do it. Let me play that again.
She thought that the Jews were useful leverage with the Nazis. So they thought that if they sacrificed Jewish people or if they persecuted Jewish people, then the Germans would give them more control of domestic affairs. And what it resulted in was that Vichy just did the Germans' dirty work for them because they thought it was better that French people do it rather than Germans, no matter what the cost. And here's a really good example of this. So we have in 1941 founded this very Nazi-sounding body, the General Commissariat for Jewish Questions, founded by Vichy. Vichy did this. It introduced this body, which was to oversee its anti-Semitic measures and to oversee Aryanization, because it thought the Germans were going to do it, and it wanted to do it itself. So that's the logic of collaboration. They placed this man, Xavier Vallat, in charge, who was a thoroughgoing anti-Semite, a former member of parliament of the Third Republic in the interwar years. And so what this body does is it epitomizes Vichy's approach to anti-Semitism in the context of collaboration. So We might say that it takes what it thinks Germany's going to do. It stamps it with a "Made in France" mark, and then extends it and just does what the Germans or does what it thinks the Germans want anyway. Now, what happens in France after 1942 builds on this. So builds on this longer history of anti-Semitism in the war years. And it ultimately leads to Auschwitz for many thousands of Jewish people in France. And so this is when arrests begin in 1942. So this is in the wake of the Wannsee Conference in January that year, during which the Nazis kind of agree that this final solution will be pursued. And it's the first time that the Germans actually ask Vichy to deliver Jews to them. It asks for a quota of 40,000 Jews. This demand is delivered by a man called Theodor Dannecker, who is Adolf Eichmann's representative in France. And Dannecker says, we want 40,000 Jews aged between 16 and 40, and we're going to take them to the east. Dannecker says that he wants the majority of these from the north, so from the occupied zone, and the remainder can come from the south. So people in these internment camps. Now, the big problem for Vichy at this time is that Dannecker says to them, we want 40% of these people to be French citizens. And that scares Vichy. It scares Pierre Laval, who is the head of the government at this time, because he's worried that if we hand French people over, well, the population aren't going to like that. That will be a PR disaster for us. And so a compromise is reached. Laval agrees with Dannecker that the arrests will be limited to foreigners. But he agrees, and this is absolutely awful, to send children under 16 as well. That's a special request made by Pierre Laval. And he also agrees that the French police will do it all. They will arrest everyone. And this is partly to do with, as I've mentioned, collaboration, because they think, well, if the French police are doing it, that means we're in control.
Whatever. That goes back to that softening up this shit. And then the immigrants thing, like it's, make most of them be immigrants, make most, we didn't want them here anyways.
We're doing it in ourselves. The Germans aren't interfering. And, if we get rid of these immigrants, all the better. We don't want them here. We don't want them here anyway. And so we have this very famous arrest in Paris in July 1942, the Veldiv roundup, which the police arrest about 16,000 Jews. And it's called the Veldiv roundup because 8,000 of these Jews are held in the Vélodrome d'Hiver, which is an indoor sports stadium in Paris. And they're held there for several days without proper amenities and without food and water.
There was a hurricane, and it was called Katrina, and it smacked the shit out of fucking Louisiana, especially a city called New Orleans. There was a stadium in Houston, Texas, and this stadium wasn't being used for anything, so they used it to house people coming from New Orleans and other Louisiana areas after they just went through this catastrophe where they houses and their basically city was destroyed, like not completely destroyed, but really fucked up. And guess what? These people were in horrible conditions and didn't have food and shit, and crazy shit was happening. I'm just saying, it just sounds very similar to me. That's one of the thoughts that come to mind when he tells the story.
Water. And it's this Veldiv roundup has come to symbolise French involvement in the Holocaust. And it's the roundup depicted in the film La Rafle, which
and it wasn't the only one. There was one in Marseille, and the one in Marseille involved the burning of the quarter as well, the old tenement buildings there as well, and there was some in Normandy and Rouen and Cherbourg, and the roundup, as the title of the show for today, has kind of got this impression of being large scale, but a roundup can be just 2 people removed. It was kind of, they knew they had the lists already. Now I'm going to jump in with something that you may be covering later, and maybe we should be covering at the end. But there are some historians, I want your opinion on this, who've said that, I don't agree with it myself, but the Vichy government who say, okay, the Germans want 40,000, we'll organize it ourselves, we'll give them 40,000. The argument for that, some people give, is that therefore they're not going to ask for another 80,000. If they had said no at the beginning, maybe the Germans come and take 80,000. Maybe they take 200,000. So some people are suggesting that if by Vichy giving a smaller number, it's the lesser of a greater of 2 evils, in that you're still allowing people to go to their deaths possibly, but it's fewer than would be if you allow the Germans to come in and control it themselves. Now,
how many times do we hear this lesser of 2 evils shit? I'm so fucking tired of hearing that bullshit. And that's what they say when it's time to go vote for the president. It's like, people that follow politics, they're like, okay, it's the lesser of 2 evils. Just, pick the lesser of 2 evils. But wait, why we got to choose between 2 evils? Why ain't nobody saying that?
I don't particularly go along with that. What's your feeling about that?
Yeah, I'd like to say 2 things about that. The first question is, well, how would the Germans do it? Would they divert soldiers from fighting the Soviet Union? My guess is probably not. So one of the arguments we could make is that if the French hadn't done this, the Germans might not have had the resources to do this. And I think the second point, which is a piece of evidence that really backs that up, is that in 1942, when the French are doing the arresting, they are able to deport 42,000 Jews. But in 1943 and 44, when the French stop this and hand it over to the Germans, they are only able to deport 31,000 in 2 years, whereas in half a year, the French helped deport 42,000. So I think the numbers kind of attest to the fact that the Germans couldn't have got as many as they did. Yeah, I'm perfectly aware of that argument. I just don't think the Germans would have seen this as a priority at that time.
I completely agree with you. I just.
So the argument is the French to defend, and you will hear this if you look this up, that the French did it because the Germans were going to do it anyway. So part of it was the French pride, and we'll just do it ourselves. That way we got control, and they're not over here fucking taking over our cities and shit. And the other way is, to kind of like, I don't know, be kind to Germany. Because look, one thing though I would say in France's defense is that, nobody knew who was going to win this war. Okay? Now, you guys can sit here and say whatever the fuck you want to say, but when World War II was happening, did nobody know who the fuck was going to win that? It totally could have been Germany. It totally could have been that other side. Totally could have been that other side. And really, that other side fucked themselves, and that's how they end up losing. So, yeah. So, it totally could have been that other side. So, anyways, France is hedging their bets. If it does come out to be that Germany, that side ends up coming out on top of this whole thing, then France is going to be in a better position than, many other countries. You know what I'm saying? Because Germany will be like, oh, yeah, you guys were, y'all was looking out. So, there's lots of books and movies about alternative history. If Hitler would have won, there's stuff out there. So I recommend y'all look that up just to be just out of curiosity, just to kind of like, perspective. It's all about perspective. So, you know, like I said, during World War II, nobody knew who was going to win this fucking war, bro. Trust me and trust and believe nobody knew who was going to win this. It could have went either way. It was totally a flip of the coin, 50-50 type of situation. So France, and that the reason why I'm making this rant is giving France a bit of defense in that, you know, Germany totally could have pulled this out. And, you know,
thought at some point, if I don't mention it, someone maybe you're going to mention it on the sidebar, and it's that, you know, we discussed it in your last show that the historiography of how France has viewed its war has changed, is still changing. There's different eras of how it was written about, and that is one of those arguments that was kind of there in place. Probably, yes. I'm thinking before 1995, before the official apology, but back in that day when people were maybe trying to find some reason to justify the Vichy collaboration. So, well, actually, it wasn't really that bad, because if you look at it from this point of view, it saved more lives. And, you know, yeah. It's as we said in the last show, is that we're moving through these things, and I think things are getting a bit more balanced now. But like with everything else, controversial with regards to World War II, there's always different viewpoints. I mean, as course, we, yeah. You know, I'm bound, it's bound to come up at one show this week where someone's going to ask something about Holocaust denial. You know, how can we still be in a world where there are still movements out there denying this whole thing to, you know, happening at all? So the yeah. fact there are nonsense arguments made about it is part of the course, I suppose, on a subject that's so big and so emotive.
Yeah, and I know, in fact, that argument that you mentioned has actually been revived in the historiography very recently. So there is a book in English called, I think it's called The Survival of Jews in France by a French historian, Jacques Simelin, who makes a similar sort of argument. Yeah, but you are right that this Marseille raid, so the raids happen in the south in August 1942, and it's a similar thing. The Jews are like torn from their beds and torn from their houses. Even more upsettingly, in the south, the families who are arrested are given the choice: you can take your children with you east, or you can leave your children here. And the majority of parents decide to leave their children in France
because they knew they were gonna die. Now, how many of y'all knew about this? Like, I swear to God, bro. Like, I'm a college student and I study shit, and I did not know this stuff. Like, this is all news to me. I'm not gonna lie to you. Okay, I researched this on my own because of something that I don't know. I don't remember last week. Something I don't remember. I really don't remember what made me go down this road. But I went down this road because I had some kind of seed. I had a seed idea of it. So so I started looking it up, and then I'm not gonna say I was surprised. I'm not surprised at all. Totally not surprised. But this information was never fucking taught to me, like, ever, in no history books ever, where like nothing. It seems like whenever they talk about the Holocaust, they're just saying Germany exterminated all these Jews. You know, they didn't say nothing about France having a part of it.
Rather than be deported with them. Now, the most significant thing I think about these arrests is that this is out in the open now. And so we might ask, well, what did French people think when they saw this? What was the response of the French? Before I examine that, though, I'm just going to back up a little bit to look at what was the response of the French before 1942. Now, this is quite a harsh assessment.
There it goes.
Of two historians, Michael Morris and Robert Paxton. Although their work, Vichy, France and the Jews, is seen as kind of the absolutely essential read in this field. And what they argue was that actually the French didn't respond very in any sense or any shape or form to Vichy's anti-Semitic laws.
They didn't really respond. They were okay with it.
And they use evidence from police reports to support this, and reports on public opinion to show that actually the French didn't react. And we therefore might ask, well, why not? And I think we can respond to that question by citing things like the shortages of wartime, the struggle to survive. Many French are concerned with their own fate as much as the fate of the Jews.
Their own ass.
And these daily miseries and daily challenges revive anti-Semitic prejudice. So if you're struggling to buy food on the black market, you might think, well, who is hoarding these resources? Who is buying these resources? Oh, it's the Jews. I've been told the Jews do this.
I wish, I pray, I hope that you guys can try to begin to understand this. Okay? They make, however you think about Jewish people, I really don't give a damn. What you have to understand is at this moment, Jewish people are a scapegoat for the situations of the miseries of the peoples. Okay? Now, you know that there's other people that's behind the miseries of the peoples, right? I'm sure you understand that. That's super simple, right? So you got these peoples that are creating a situation that causes people to suffer, and then those same people, make the people think that it's this person's fault or that person's fault. The other, it's the immigrant, it's the one that's not like us. They don't fit in, it's their fault. They're causing all of this shit. So then you turn around and you be like, okay, shit, I can't barely feed my kids, are hungry and shit. These motherfuckers own businesses and shit. What is going on? You've been manipulated. You're being manipulated. You know what I'm saying? The powers that be are distracting you and creating a scapegoat, and you're placing your blame on this when they're the direct reason, and they just do not want you to make those kind of connections. Absolutely do not make those kind of connections. Do everything else but that. The connections between like present day, Jeff Bezos, the people who own Walmart, the Sackler family, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a list. Bill Gates, Zuckerberg. There's a direct relation between their prosperity and the regular people's suffering. Call me crazy. Where's all that wealth coming from? Where is the wealth coming from that these people have, that they keep building? Why did their wealth go up so much during the pandemic? Come on, you guys. You got to make the connections between what's happening now and what happened before. So that's the reason why I'm covering this, because I really want you guys to try to see the similarities, the polarities, the freaking, repetition, the same damn dogma, the same damn rhetoric, the same play.
Who might be profiting from this situation, profiting from my misery? It must be Jewish people in France. So anti-Semitism revives, we might say, and it causes this indifference, this kind of non-reaction to Vichy's discrimination against Jewish people in France.
And that makes complete sense, Chris. With what we know from Normandy is that when you're struggling for food to eat, when you're struggling for fuel, when you're struggling for work, whatever it would be, your care for the world around you reduces, because you don't give money to charity if you haven't got any money to spare yourself. Is in a sense the thing, isn't it? So when communities are pressed, your concerns are about your immediate close circle of friends, your immediate family, and in fact you would ditch your friend before you ditch your family, and so your world gets smaller and smaller, and yet the amount of care you've got for other people, if you're suffering and you're under pressure, is reduced.
Does that not sound familiar? And the squeeze is on, people. Now, I'm talking about here in the United States. I can't speak for anywhere else, but clearly the squeeze is on, people. It's been on for a minute, since the beginning of this pandemic. It hasn't stopped. The squeeze is on. So when they talk about pressure, you know what I'm saying? The pressure is on. I covered a bit in one of the other shows about like an email from one of the companies. It was like a fast food company, and they sent the email and they said, they don't have the money, they spent up their money. They got, they got to work. So, that's going to be good for us, and, and I see like that email is so indicative, I'm sure, of the frame of mind of a lot of these corporations. And I also see how it's a lot of hiring going on. And like, I can't wait till the numbers come out, but because they were talking about all of the unemployment numbers and so forth and so on, I'm willing to bet those numbers are going to change dramatically. A lot of people are going back to work or getting double, third, fourth jobs because they struggling like a motherfucker because the price of gas, the price of food, everything, the press is on. They're not paying you anymore. Why are these big companies, the big corporations, the big boss hogs, the Mike Zuckerbergs, the Jeff Bezos, why they made so much fucking money over this past year? Ask yourself that question.
It's natural. That's going to be universal, whether you're, not like the myth in Britain that during the Blitz period everything was great, and in fact crime went through the roof in World War II. That people, there's always this idea that it makes people better people, but actually adversity, in some ways, adversity makes people worse. It makes people more selfish because they're struggling.
Yeah, and many people, as I've mentioned, had never had any contact with Jewish people. Yeah. They didn't know any Jewish people, particularly people living in rural France. And the fact that it was mainly foreigners and immigrants who were being persecuted, well, who cares? Would be what they thought. Now that's more difficult to, that sits a bit more uncomfortably after 1942 because there are scenes of chaos and panic in the streets when people are being arrested, and a really good source for this is this. A diary. It's available in English, of a young Jewish girl, Hélène Baer, and she just gives a few examples of these are the rumors that were going around Paris. So it's rumored that a family gassed themselves to escape, or one woman threw her children out of the window, or people are being deported in cattle trucks. And so what this demonstrates is that people, if they hadn't witnessed the roundups, they'd heard, whether these stories were true or not, we don't know, but they'd heard these rumors. And suddenly it seems much more outrageous the way the government is treating the Jews. And it also undermines official explanations about where the Jews are going. So if you are saying to the French population, these people are going to work in the East, well, what are the children going for? They're not going to work in these. So why are these children being manhandled into trucks? And it raises protests from the population and also from important bodies like the Protestant Church. Makes very significant protests. And it actually weakens Vichy's resolve to pursue this to the end. So I mentioned that Germans took over the arrest in 1943 and 1944. That's because Vichy withdrew the cooperation of the French police because of this upswell of opposition, and it was concerned about maintaining order.
Y'all really have to try to understand this. Okay, so you have a dictatorship, a fucking monarchy type of fucking situation, but they still very concerned about the sentiments of the people. So the people, aren't happy about these roundups, and they organize and they protest. And then the government is like, okay, we're not going to do this shit no more. You know what I'm saying? The people, we know these French people, we know how they do. They like to cut people's heads off when they got a history of cutting their leaders' heads off. I think every country's leaders should have a little bit of fear, like rattling their boots a bit. Yes, your head could get cut off, bruh. It could happen. So yeah, so there was like, okay, even though they're freaking ruling the people with an iron fist and basically like dictating to the people, and they don't really have no democracy, no say really. Even though they don't, they protest, and the government is like, wait, hold on. Maybe we shouldn't be doing this shit. So my point is, you have power. People have power. The people have power. The power goes to the people. And this is an example of that. Even in a scenario where you have this freaking like a dictatorship type of situation, even in a dictatorship, the dictatorship is afraid of the people because the people really do have the power.
In France. Now, we might ask ourselves, and it's a question we can ask about any country or nation in the Second World War to do with the Holocaust. What did Vichy know about where people were going? Where did it think they were going to? And did it believe Germany? Well, when Germany used euphemisms like labor colonies or population transfers. Now, the strange thing is this wasn't entirely unbelievable in the 40s, because in the 1930s, there had been serious discussions in France about setting up a labor colony for Jews on Madagascar, a French colony. So it seems, it rings a bell, I suppose, with the French. Oh, yes, we've talked about this before. And in any case, if you had told the French that these people were being killed en masse, it's an unbelievably horrific story to believe, and so it might be literally unbelievable.
There you go.
And what Laval, who leads the government at this time, in the end, what he decides is that these are immigrants. They're essentially, he calls them rubbish sent by the Germans in the 30s.
Trash.
And so if he can rid France of foreigners, he doesn't care where the Jews are going. It solves a problem, and he's not willing to ask the question or pursue the question.
Of course he knows. What's up, Pat?
What's up?
This dude knew that they were going to kill him, but it's like, don't ask the question. Don't ask, don't tell. Ain't that what they say in the military? Don't ask, don't tell. You know, it's like, you know, he knew what was going to happen to the women, children, and men that, you know, that they rounded up and sent to the Germans, you know. But it's like, okay, well, maybe they're just going to, you know, I don't know, do not kill them, like something other than kill them. You know, okay, well, shit, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, maybe they are going to do something that's not going to kill them.
No, he thought he was going to send them there, and they were going to get together and knit some blankets.
There was a vacation or something. Like they was going to take them, they were going to put them all together in some, like, I don't know, theme park, and they were just going to have fun.
They had never been camping before, so they were gonna go out. They were gonna have a camping trip. They were gonna build a fire, sing songs. You know.
No, that motherfucker knew. He knew. So, but you know, that's another way that France is like using, you know, trying to avoid, because I think the main part of this story that's important is that France was more efficient than Germany was at exterminating Jews in France. This is a fact. Okay? Not taught in school. Nobody talks about this. France don't really even want to admit it. That because they decided to do this roundup to appease Germany, and they were more efficient because they already had.
Well, it never happened.
What do you mean?
For
as
them,
far as
you know, in their mind, they, you know.
It never happened. Yeah, because that's how they teach us in history. Because this doesn't come up, and if they do cover some shit, they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, Germany was Hitler. Hitler killed all those Jews."
Yeah, bad guy, bad boy. He's bad.
Evil Hitler.
Yeah.
And that's all they say. They don't tell you that France was like, you know what, we're gonna appease Germany and we're gonna give him a hand. We're gonna give them a hand with this. And matter of fact, we're gonna do it more efficiently than them. Because why? Because we're French, and the French do everything better than everybody else, even exterminating Jews.
Now let's get to killing.
And it's not even funny. It's not even funny because the parallels of it with like modern day society and the same rhetoric and dogma that they use to do genocides today are the same dogma that, and you know, the same philosophy that they used back then. It's like there's no difference really. And then that's why I get all sensitive when we talk about immigration, because that's kind of how I think that's why I ended up looking all of this shit up anyways, because I knew it was going to be some connections like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Viva la France. What is it? And then I think they have a saying that's similar to okay, the British, it says the sun never sets on the British colony or something like that. And then it's like the United States has some kind of saying that's similar to that, like shore to shore, sea to sea, sunrise, sunset, some shit like that. And I think France has something like that too. Like it's like sun never sets on France, some shit.
Yeah, if you own half the world.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what they mean when they say that shit. That's what they mean when they say that shit. And that's why I wanted to focus on this, is because the power, the wealth that France, the influence that France has is based on the fact that they, you know, robbed, steal, killed, pillaged, enslaved, colonized fucking folks. Because otherwise they wouldn't. And like I asked before in the other show, like, what the hell do they damn produce? Shit. They produce colonies. That's what they produce.
Croissants.
Yeah, but that ain't gonna be that. How impact do croissants have on their GDP?
Hey man, people love croissants, man.
I love croissants. I ain't gonna lie, it's my favorite. That's one of my favorite. And I'm a pastry. So how's the diet coming, bro? Like, let's talk about that a bit. Let's change the subject.
So far so good. I mean, you know, I'm right. I hadn't had anything but fruit since yesterday, you know. So I mean, I'm just.
You sound good. You sound good too. Like a lot of times, you sound kind of congested on the show. You know what I mean? A bit like sinus congestion type shit.
I actually thought I sounded kind of bad because I just woke up.
Well, you do sound like you just woke up, but you sound like your lungs are clear, and like you know, that's one of those things. It's kind of like, you know how like your body is building up toxins, and it builds them up in different ways. And one of the places they build up is in your lungs and in your sinuses and shit, because your body really is trying to get it out. But
well, I've been taking this these supplements that the doctor gave me that it's supposed to help with all different parts of my body. I'm gonna take some pictures and send them to you so you can kind of see what kind of stuff it is. But you know, it's like a little bits, but you know, I'm taking it in lime, which the lime is supposed to be like a scrubber. It's like
it's let me jump on that, bro, because that is very interesting that you mentioned lime, because we were talking about this in my class just the other day. Because North American Archaeology is the name of the class, and I mean it's really interesting stuff to me, anyways. And I'm gonna, after the classes, I'm gonna wait till the class is over, and then I'm gonna show some slides to y'all, because I'm sure there's some slides that's interesting, but that I think you guys would like to see. Mississippian tradition, I'm sure y'all have heard of that before. So like, okay, and knowing about corn and how important it was to like the Southwest region in North America, continent. So one of the things they did was they stored the corn in lime. Okay. And it made the corn more nutritious. It brought out, I think it's iron or something. I don't want to lie to y'all, but the lime made a certain nutrient more in it, like, or whatever. Like it made the corn more nutritious, because one of the things is people were, what was it? He told a story about these people eating ash because it's something in the ash. Is it salt? It's not salt, because they had salt. It's something in it that's in the ash that these people were eating, because what was happening is if you have like a mostly corn type of, corn is your staple in your diet, you're going to be missing something. It's I want to say it's iron and something, but anyways, this should have give you like
sodium not sodium bicarbonate, but
it gives you get a disease for having a lack of this in your diet. And it's a popular disease. I mean, not popular, but I mean, it's well known. Everybody knows it, but I can't think of the name of it right now. But you get a disease from that. So, but these people, that's what, again, goes back to what we be saying all the time. These motherfuckers are smarter. They knew more shit. They knew that if they stored these corn in this lime wrap thing, that it made the corn more nutritious when they ate it, and it kept them from getting sick, from getting this disease that they would get from, It's really deep, because this is the reason why these populations were able to live the way they were able to live, because they didn't have to worry about food so much. They had this staple of corn, and they were in the desert. These were like desert people. And they could grow corn in the desert and store it for later when rough times hit. Anyways, go ahead.
Well, the lime in this case is more to serve as scrubbers, because it's like it's like if the example given was, if you try to go and let's just say you got honey or something that you put on the table and it gets the table sticky. You come and just try to come with water, you're gonna have a pretty tough time to try to get that water off the table. I mean, that honey off the table with just water. But with lime, that lime will actually start to kind of, it's an acid. It starts to clean things and move things that you wouldn't just with water or drink, because it's like whether you're drinking water. So that's why it's important that we use, like, in detoxing the body, using lime or lemon water.
I was about to say lemon. I was about to ask you because I was gonna say that lemon. It seemed like lemon would work like that same type of job.
Yeah. So that's the whole thing with trying to, because you're detoxing, and that's a part of that process of losing weight is to, you're of course, watching, the calories and all that kind of stuff, but you're also trying to get rid of these different things. So that's why it's important to take because I guess like our supplements, everything says take this with lime juice.
Yeah.
So,
man, everything bad builds up in the fat, because the fatty parts are the more acidic, and the more acidic parts attract acid. You know what I'm saying? The acidity. My dad used to say trash attracts trash. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that's how it works. But like fiber, that's why people should eat fiber, and like celery is a good example. Like celery don't really have no calories, and it don't really have no nutritional value either, really. But it kind of like works as a cleaner,
scrubber.
like what you're saying, like the lime. Yeah, that's kind of how.
Yeah.
And also, you burn calories by eating celery, and like that's why it's good. That's why people have to like try to understand things better. Like they don't teach us all of this stuff that like we focus on calories or sugar or saturated fat or whatever the shit that they put on the labels. But it's like you have to use common sense too with that. Because like the celery don't really have no nutritional value. It really doesn't. But then they tell you celery is good for you. Then why do they tell you celery is good for you if it don't really have no fucking nutritional value? Because it doesn't really have any nutritional value, like at all. Your body is just going to kick it right back out. The water is going to get some water out of it, but that's about it. Your body's just going to kick it back out. It don't have no nutritional value. Your body can't use it.
Once you chew it and you swallow it down and it goes through your system, it's actually like little scrubbers that's going through and
exactly
onto this and that and
exactly
things through your body. Yeah.
and your body also can use the fibers to attach, because the bad stuff will attach to it, and that'll give your body a chance to eject that stuff that it's been wanting to get rid of. Like it does a whole bunch of stuff like that that's really good for you. So, and then the other thing is, like, you're chewing it, you have to chew up celery so you burn calories when you're eating it. You know what I'm saying? And it's good for your teeth and your jaws and your muscles, and you're getting a little cardio too. You know what I'm saying? That's the part. So people have to try to look at it. You know, people don't look at all of the different dimensions of stuff. They're just looking at the sugar amount or the grams or the calorie. A lot of people just focus on calories. If you just focusing on calories, nigga, you lost.
Yeah. Now there's a lot to it, and I actually sent you the live that Chief did, and he kind of went through a lot of that stuff this evening. But that was interesting for me, because I mean, I've always heard, lemon water, lime, it's just good for you, period. But why? You know what I'm saying? That's the part that came out, and I was like, okay, now see, that makes total sense, and I'm fucking doing it because, I mean, I've done it. You drink lemon water from time to time anyway, but it's just like, yeah, like it's definitely something to, really focus on, and make sure you're doing it, because, like, from time to time, like for these different little, like, when you get these droppers of medicine, medicine droppers or whatever, a lot of times I just take the droppers and put it under my tongue and let it absorb into my body, and that way it kind of goes into my bloodstream faster. But for whatever reason, I'm like, okay, you know what? Doctor said, the structure said this specifically on each bottle. I need to do exactly what they said, because like I want to see the change, that whatever that they feel that it's going to do, I'm doing it. But it just happens today, because I have a different doctor than, because I'm in a different region from the chief, but he's the head of the AMA, our Aboriginal Medical Association. So I mean, he's just having a meeting, going through these different things, and it just makes sense, So,
I think everybody needs to learn. Oh, excuse me. I think everybody needs to learn more about acidity, alkalinity, and base, acid, base, and alkaline.
That part, because he even went through the examples. Is like, look, because it was he talked about this lady who she had cancer, and she believed wholeheartedly in the Sabi diet, and she's like, because he's like, look, Sabi wasn't even healthy, because like for a man that's 6'3" or whatever, being 120 pounds, that's not healthy. He was like overly alkaline. Like he was, his body was in alkalosis. Like he was kind of like, you got to have that balance of the good and the bad in order for your, you got to have some body fat in order for your body to be healthy, So it's like, you have to really pay real attention. You got to have real science that's at work, instead of just knowing what certain things do, like, because you can overdo anything.
Yeah, because that guy, Forbidden Knowledge, I'm sure you know who that is. I can't think of what else he go by, but Forbidden Knowledge, that guy. And I saw an interview where he was talking about when he was vegan, and how he was sick as hell and he was bleeding. He said he was doing an interview, and he said that when he got up, like his pants was all like blood, like, but you couldn't see because he had on like a suit and it was dark pants or whatever. He said he was basically doing his thing, but he was sick as hell because he was fucking his body up. He went too far with the vegan stuff.
Yeah, I mean, because I hate to say, because I mean, based on the science, I would hate to really say that veganism is just bad, but if you're not really looking at the true science on what each one of these things is doing, like what effect it's having on your body, you can, no matter what you're putting in your body, really, you know, you can be a vegetarian and not be totally well, because like protein, you need like all these different things. You need the nutrients, you need the protein, you need the sugars, you need, you know, you need all a balance of it all. So just knowing what, you know, kind of the meat somehow, but the right meats, you know, it says he doesn't really eat meat so much, but he knows that every now and then that's a go-to in order to get his body back in order. So, you know.
Yeah, so what I say is I think that we overthink all of this stuff. I remember they came out with the Atkins diet, and then that dude died. And then a lot of people was still on that diet, and it's like acting like it was healthy and shit. And like, come on, man, this stuff is not healthy. I think that we overthink it. You know, I think the way I like to look at it, you know, being an anthropologist, I look at human history and our evolution and think about us in the bush, you know, running around, chasing some prey, getting some rabbits, mostly eating fruits and nuts and vegetables and roots and shit anyways, because that's what's available, and only having meat every now and then, and also having to chase it and catch it half the damn time, running around fucking.
But when you say overthink it, kind of, I guess, a little bit bothers me, because if you underthink it, you know, it can be a problem.
Well, I just think we need to simplify our way of looking at diet and go back to us in the bush, because it hasn't been that long in our evolution that the way we live modernly, our modern way of living, is very recent in our evolution. So our body is more adjusted to being out there in the bush. So you think about that, and you think about how those people who would be in, like, living in whatever it is, whatever environment, if they're living out there in the world and they're living off the land, how would their life be, and how much, you know, how much meat would they possibly get a hold to, you know, and how vigorously physical activity would they be doing daily, you know, mostly they're probably not gonna eat that much, these people, and they're gonna be running around a lot, and they're mostly gonna be eating fruits, nuts, and vegetables, because that's what's gonna be available, and they're gonna get some meat a couple times a month.
But see, the thing is, in environments like that, and in most cases, they're more in touch with the environment, and that's something that we have a total disconnect, right? You know, during this period in time, no matter where you are in the world, for most part. But I can't go with the whole idea of, you know, like, there's too much thinking about it, because that's, you know, making it simple is really just understanding, knowing what it is that you're doing with your body. So we do need to more so, I would say, overthink it, try it, you know, like, know what we're actually doing before we do it, because that's what's, you know, the underthinking is what we've done with veganism, and what we've done.
I think the veganism was overthinking. I think that your body tells you. I think that that's being more in tune with nature, like you was just saying. I think that when you simplify it and you just, like, you know, like I say, go back to the idea of living in the bush and try to get as close to that as you can in all aspects, including the vigorous physical activity. You know what I'm saying?
But they still knew what those things were doing. Like they you know, was it totally like tested and all? Like, I think to some extent they really knew what this food was doing for them, because of, you know, mainly
way better
like how
than
they
us.
feel.
Way better than us. But
They were more in touch because they could feel it.
But that's what I'm saying. My point is this, you know, for us, we can't know that a lot of that knowledge was lost. A lot of that knowledge was passed down to generations. That's why they knew a lot of that stuff. Their grandma told them. You know what I'm saying? We lost that. So, but we can use our body. We can use how we feel, how we react to things, and it is more dangerous. You know what I'm saying? But I think that's a more accurate way because your body is going to tell you what's working and what's not if you really just listen and becoming more in tune with nature is knowing thyself. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, because I mean, I'm sure like they had a lot of trial and error because they had thousands of years to be like, you remember Umbuku
Yeah,
died
exactly.
from eating.
He was eating them berries too much. Don't eat
You
them
know,
berries too much. You can't just eat berries. Mbuktu, that nigga turned purple and fucking
they were
died.
studying.
Yeah, so they knew. That's what I'm saying. The matriarch, it was probably the grandma, like I said. She was probably the one who knew.
But that's not a part. That's not a part of underthinking it and just making it too simple. You know what I'm saying? Maybe
But for us, we don't have the matriarch no more. She's gone. Big Mama gone.
Well,
we don't have her no more. So,
but we do have the thinkers in our realm that we should not ignore, and I think that's a lot of what's going on is that people ignore some of these different things because they've gotten stuck on a certain idea that somebody sold them and not really going into the idea of, okay, you know what, when they do feel, a lot of people that, they'll get sick, they don't want to look at the fact that it's their diet that's making them sick, the
right.
way that they're eating.
And not just your diet, though, it's your life. Because whenever people say, a diet, that's another thing that I think, because this goes back to language. It's a lifestyle change is what it really is. It shouldn't be called a diet. Lifestyle change, period. Okay.
But it's the things that you put in your body, period. Is not, you know what I'm saying, like,
and that's
how much water, how much
and that could go to how much
alcohol.
TV you're watching. Yeah, that could go with how much sunlight you're getting. It's all of that. It's how much sweat is coming out of you.
Because that's the way Chief talks, is like, that's, a part of your diet is, all right, if let's say you're not getting at least the hour of sunlight every day, because they say an hour to 2 hours every day of sunlight. If you're not getting that, you need to supplement that. You know what I'm saying? You got to get that vitamin D one way or another. And of course, our bodies are different than other people's bodies, so we have to get certain types of things that's going to actually be beneficial to our bodies. Because if you believe the lie that we're all the same and that any kind of medicine is going to fix you that fixes them, it's just not real.
And our bodies are amazing. That's why I like to say, I think it's like a spacesuit. I really think it's like a spacesuit, and that's the best way to understand it. I was watching Jordan Peterson. It wasn't Jordan Peterson. It was fucking Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan had a guy on who had went to space, and one of the things they were talking about was how he was there for like 9 months. How long was he there? He was there 1 month less than the amount of time that they give you a patch or something, and he was upset about not staying long enough to get that patch for this having to do with the duration.
Was he about to die? Was he about to die while he was up there?
No, it's just how it goes when, it's complex moving parts. The concern of you getting your patch is not what the mission is. You know what I'm saying? Other things are going on. So, but anyways, the reason why I brought it up was he was talking about how, they talked about how people being in space for a long time and how it fucks them up. And one of the things is, he said, it's like it takes you a year to recover. It's like going through a major sports injury. You know what I'm saying? You have to recover from it because it's really because your body starts adapting to being in space. That's what happens. So your body is, because it doesn't have to use. He says your arms would be fine. He says, but your legs and the muscles in your lower back and all of that stuff and your bone, that shit starts withering away the longer you are up there, because your body is like, whoa, wait, I don't need all this no more. You know, I don't need this big bulky skeleton. I don't need all these muscles in the back. I don't need all these leg muscles.
I can live more like a reptilian.
So that's super interesting how you know, see, the thing is about humans, that's the reason why I study anthropology, is because humans are something else, man. We adapt faster than any other creature, and that's one of the reasons why we're able to, you know, dominate the earth the way that we do. It's not that, because look at us, we don't have no claws, we don't have no teeth. You know what I'm saying? We're weak as fuck if you compare us to almost everything else, bro. If you put a dog at the same weight and height as us, he finna fuck us up. You put a cat the same weight and height as us, he finna fuck us up. You put a bird the same weight and height as us, he finna fuck us up, bro. We ain't got nothing on none of them animals, bro. And those are just the regular ass, soft ass animals. Not to mention these ones that's out here that's built to fucking fuck shit up that's way bigger than itself. It's kind of strange. So, but okay, so we have this thing where our physical body, because we adjust and make, you know, the reason why I brought this up is because we're talking about diet and how, like, you know, so your body adjusts to what the conditions are. You know what I'm saying? So you're not giving it enough sunlight, or you're not doing whatever. The body's gonna be like, okay, so boom, we're gonna store up some energy and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna, you know, this dude, or you don't eat regularly and shit like that. Your body is doing what it needs to do to keep you alive. You know what I'm saying? Because that's its job. So it's constantly making these adjustments daily, monthly, yearly. You know what I'm saying? Like they say, you're not the same person.
Hourly.
Yeah. Even your cells regenerate. Even all your skin cells, they all fucking fall off. Some of the only ones that you keep, I think, are some of your brain cells, because they talk about certain brain cells that if they were to die, that they're gone. But almost every other cell in your body, the cells in your heart, your lungs, your liver, all of that shit, some of the cells die off, and then they have to grow new ones. So it refreshes and regenerates and fucking changes. You get what I'm saying? And that's really, if you understand cancer, then that's really what cancer is, because cancer is your body changing wrong. Like it's making it think, the cancer makes your body think that that's proper functioning, but it's not. It's tricking the system, like, and the system feeds the cancer. So,
well, actually, it's more so that your body is, because, all right, let's just say with an unhealthy diet, when you're not getting the nutrients and vitamins and all that your body's supposed to get, and you're feeding it bad stuff, of course, for one, your body is getting tired and weak from always trying to find those things in your body that it needs to be, you know, to function healthily, because its main job is to keep it from killing itself. Keeping you from killing
saving
yourself.
you, yeah.
So it's like, you know, when you're steadily putting things in your body that's not beneficial, and it's steadily using whatever it can. It's like taking these chemicals and that chemical. Oh damn, he put some liquor in here, blah blah blah. But it does have some of this in it that'll help me. You know,
yeah,
so
let's do what we can with what we got.
Yeah, so it's steadily doing that, but you're overworking your body. You're just constantly, like, you're never giving the body a chance to rest, and that's just like, you know, you never getting a chance to go on vacation. You just working 24 hours
and
a day.
I read somewhere that they said that most people don't ever get to feel how their body functioning properly.
Yeah.
And it's because we don't do the things that we need to do for our body to really be functioning properly. But then you think, again, you go back to the bush, but you don't even have to go back to the bush. Just go back to when you was a kid. You know what I'm saying? And that's why a lot of times it doesn't even matter what little kids, it don't matter what they eat a lot of times, because they they be running around, bro, living life like a motherfucker, like for no damn reason. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it does matter because I mean, honestly, I mean, the earlier you start with giving a child good nutrition, the better chances they have of being, you know, smarter, more, they can be more efficient, you know, like stronger, like overall, like instead of starting them off when they're 18 or 20, when they've already started degenerating their body, you know, if you start them off early and that's the habit that they're into, like the chances of them becoming a genius are much higher.
And I can't argue with that. I'm just saying that, you know, when the kid is little and he's running around, what he eats doesn't really matter that much. You know what I'm saying? Long as he's getting whatever span of vitamins, nutrients that body needs because of his lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? Because of the child's lifestyle.
But that stuff is changing too. So I mean, like you gotta think. I mean, there's a lot of kids that's not really going outside
That's
and
so
running,
true.
and
That's
they're
so true.
inside playing video
I'm so
games.
sad
But
about that because I look at my daughter and I be trying to get her to ride bikes. This is over and done with now. It's a wrap. I bought her a skateboard, all kinds of stuff to try to get her on doing like stuff like that outside. I used to ride bikes and ride skateboards and do all that shit, and and get lost in the woods, run around
hell
and
yeah,
shit.
bro. Look, we were so deep in the woods, like we could go anywhere in our neighborhood underground.
Tell you, bro. That's some badass kids for you right there. That's baby's kids. They done went and got lost in the woods and then popped up through a tunnel and got out.
Yeah, it was the drainage system. You know what I'm saying? We were underground in the drainage system, like on different parts of the neighborhood, and like we could come up to the you know, like to the drainage hole, and you know, talk to people that was on that corner. You know what I'm saying? Like
that, you're giving me It vibes, Stephen King's It vibes. It's kind of scary.
Well,
baby kids /
it did kind of scare them, but you know, it was still in all, you know, it was just all fun. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and I used to do a bunch of shit like that too, and it's really, 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 really sad because all my kids, the younger kids, they all don't really do that. And my youngest, she gets tired when we just be walking. Like I walk a lot all the time.
I know, bro, and I'm gonna tell you, like, I ain't gonna lie. I mean, I know the shit used to scare. I mean, tire me out, but I had no choice. We went. You was going anyway. I don't. Shut up. Shut that shit up.
And I walked a lot when I was a kid and as a teenager. I walked a lot, and I still walk a lot as an adult. And so, but my youngest, you know, she doesn't live with me, and so, you know, I still kind of walk a lot, and because I walk for no reason sometimes, like I park too far for no reason and shit like that. And like my youngest, she'd be like, "Damn, I'm tired." I'd be like, "Damn, Queen even barely did no damn walking. She tired."
Mm-hmm.
That's sad, man. That's what's happening to the kids.
So it does matter.
Well, you're talking about the physical side. I'm just saying, running around. Yeah.
No. See, you're trying to make an excuse. It does matter.
It does,
putting in that body,
especially for these kids.
It's not just physical. It's also mental. It's also spiritual. It's like all of these different things
nowadays
come into play with each other.
Definitely. But
all
look,
these things are at play at one
look,
time.
how do you fight against TikTok? This is my argument. How you gonna beat that? They're consuming that. That's one of the main. They're consuming that more than they're consuming food or not exercising and shit.
Oh, shit, Patrick gets his phone taken from me and his mama. Like, depending on, you know what I'm saying, like, if you know what I'm saying, you pull it out at the wrong time. Oh yeah, let me get that. So I mean, say, bro, we got to put boundaries up. You can't just be like, oh damn, they just be on TikTok. They just be on this that. Okay, yeah, let 'em shit. I'm gonna tell you, his mama is more gangster than me on that.
But I don't think that I don't see. I mean, I agree with you. I'm not arguing with you. What I'm saying is that, like, I don't know how much impact that really has, because even the duration of the time that you take the phone away from them, they're gonna still have other ways. And then, one of the songs, it was like they understand the internet better than us, something like that. I can't remember, but I think that's real and true. Like us being from the generation where the internet was born and we saw it grow, and them being born in the internet, like they understand it on a whole nother level than us. And
Well, yeah.
thinking that they can't access whatever the hell they want to access, you kidding yourself. Even if you take the phone away from them.
If they can do remote viewing and see the shit without the phone and this, that, and the other, God bless you. But he ain't going on his laptop and doing it, and his phone is his primary source for if he wants to see TikTok. But that's not just happening. So now if he can, if he's got some mental power that's allowing him to tap in to the damn system, hey bro, look, I'm just gonna give him a round of applause because you's a gangster motherfucker. Excuse my French, but yeah, man, no, but I honestly, it I think it makes a big difference, because whatever time that you're able to allow them to think, even just the moments when you take it and they're trying to figure out what they're doing, they're thinking, they're exercising that muscle, and they're trying to think of something creative
to make them. Well, this is my way. I distract them from their phone is what I do. And so, instead of taking them from the phone from them, I kind of I don't know, like I say, I distract them from it, and I'll get them into doing other activities their way. They'll forget all about their phone. Like, we'll be doing other shit.
Yeah, I would still be careful with that, because that bit just makes them easier to be distracted. You want to purposely, like they know what just happened. They shit just got took. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Well, my youngest, her mom does that to her all the time. So, but
yeah,
I just have my way, and she has hers. But
yeah, mom.
My way is, take them to the park and let them run around and shit, and then they're not even gonna be on their phone. So it's giving them damn them damn iPods, them laptop. You know what I'm trying to say? Them damn little fucking things.
iPads, the tablets.
Them tablets and shit all the damn time. It's and that's what parents are doing now. This is what parenting is now. Just stick them in front of.
Parenting has always been that. Parenting has always been that. Mom and dad was nowhere near as involved as we are in this age with our kids, because it's like, just take your ass outside. You're gonna be in and out. Gonna be going back and forth.
I ain't gonna lie, it's true. I'm way more involved than my parents were with me, but I think that what happened is, when we talk about history and we talk about them dismantling a household and all of that shit happening, because a lot of shit happened in our generation. You know what I'm saying? We're one of the few generations that have seen what have we seen, bro? We saw the birth of the internet. We saw 9/11. We saw.
Well, I mean, we of course, all right. We got the internet. We got computers. We got cell phones. We pretty much all of the high technology we've seen, shoot hot air balloons. You know what I'm saying? Like, we went through the blimps, jets. I mean, a lot of technology was happening like extreme technology, because I mean
like
the Air Force.
huge leaps in just the population of humans. It's more humans on the planet than I think it's ever been before. Is what they're saying.
Yeah,
So a lot of things have changed.
well,
So
in recordable history that we know of, because I mean I'm sure it's happened before. Like I mean, out of millions of years of
I
existence,
think so too.
it
I
has
think we
happened
ha-
before.
I think so too. But so my point is though, so many big, huge changes that we saw happen, and so that has an impact on our perspective. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. So like,
Because I mean, even like going into well, I mean, they had been to the moon, but I mean, there was like different things, like when we
oh,
like growing up. I before I was, they had been supposedly had been to the moon before I was born. I was born in '75, but however, the growth of the at least the talks of being able to go into space or outer space grew. So I mean that formed a different way of seeing the world as well.
and so much stuff. So that's what my point is that like, so what I think happened is that they broke up the households. Like I think it was before it was different with the parenting, as far as, like I say, the village, it takes a village to raise a child, and I think historically we had these extended families, and the child didn't get, the two parents is not really enough. You know what I'm saying? You especially if you're working a damn job, like a child needs
Well,
constant
so you didn't
attention.
have the community. Like I mean, it don't, because I mean, just because you didn't get your ass whooped from each person in the neighborhood when some shit happened, but I mean, as far as having
I think
examples of,
me and you had more than the kids do now.
well,
But I
yeah,
think that
I think
before us, they had more. It's been gradually getting less and less, and there's more pressure on each. Now it's just a single damn parent that's trying to raise
no, but it's
kids.
not. Because I mean, that video that you showed like a week or so ago, week or two ago, about the family and the different dynamics of these different families made me think about it, because I mean, like whether I was in Baton Rouge or out in the country, like I had all these different people around that, whether it was like some of the guys that my dad, even though my dad wasn't there, a lot of the guys my dad worked with lived in the same neighborhood, and I had interactions with them. I had, just, people in the community that provided a lot of different examples of how to be, how not to be. And I think that may have given just as much, if not more, balance than, because we looked at it as more of a dysfunction because of what the idea of what family look like. I am for a two-parent home, so please don't get me wrong. But in the instance that you don't, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're in a dysfunctional place in life.
Because you could be in a two-family home and be in a dysfunctional life.
Exactly.
So then that's why I always try to get my daughter to understand that kind of stuff, and that really it is better to have both parents.
Yeah, no doubt. I definitely agree with that, but at the same time, I think that because of the outlook, and you feel like you don't have something, makes you put yourself in a certain mind state that allows you to not be everything that you feel you could be. But
right,
when you realize that you have had all kinds of different things, because like yeah, I did some crazy shit when I was a kid, but I think that's along with exploring and, taking these different adventures in your life to be able to, and, just the ability to see the other side. Like, it doesn't happen for everybody. Some of them end up in jail after doing some of the shit I've done, you know what I'm saying? But I made it to the other side. I was blessed. You know what I'm saying? Like I had a chance to see the world from a different angle, of course, to lead me to seeing that that's not the world I want to be a part of. But, I think that there's a lot of things that we have to be able to use as a learning tool than to see it just totally as a hindrance to our life. I mean, I think, yeah, I wish my dad would lived in the house with me, but I also see the benefits of me not growing up in the house with him. Like, I'm a stronger person in life because he was not there. And that's just what it is for me. Is that going to be the case for everybody? Some people will need a different dynamic in order for them to be a better person. But for me, and the examples I see even to this day, like, I became a better person, and along with some of the examples that he said, because it wasn't like he just totally was not in my life. But as far as him day to day, every day being in my life, my world would have been totally different. So.
Yeah, you made me think of Jay-Z. It's like the idea of
what the hell is that?
The example that they set, like you said that, like, because Jay-Z says that, and then what's crazy is that they like to put up people who, freaking Snoop Dogg is like America's sweetheart, but he barely got off on a murder charge back in the days, and he made a song, "Murder Was the Case That They Gave Me," but word on the street is, you know what I mean? So, but you could say same thing with 50 Cent, Jay-Z. These people, they the baby. Have you heard this stuff about the baby? The video, did you see the video that it resurfaced? The video where he shot this guy in Walmart.
No, I haven't.
And the guy died.
I've heard about it, but I've never seen it.
Well, the video resurfaced. It's been viral. That was probably like last week.
Because he's been doing too much, and now it's like,
right,
that's a menace.
Right, that's why it came back up. Exactly.
Rolling Loud, the whole thing that happened at Rolling Loud, I guarantee you, is the LGBT that's make sure this thing is.
And it was a shooting at his house. I think it was and he got into a fight, and then recently he got into another fight, basically beating people up and shit. So that's why this video resurfaced. And it doesn't look good, bro. That video looks like he was the aggressor, and he shouldn't have got off on. We don't know the details because we weren't there in the courtroom when they discussed this, but just from looking at that video, it looked like he was the aggressor, and he really shouldn't have been able to beat that case. And then his post on Instagram or whatever it was I'm 30 million down. What more do y'all want from me? So it's like, okay, so well, if you got $30 million to beat a case, then you could be like me. So this is what I'm trying to say is, like, the example is that, okay, you could do all this fucked up shit, but you might make it through and become Jay-Z or the baby or XXXTentacion or whoever.
Well, I hope that's not what you're taking from me. My thing, I know.
No, I'm not saying you inspired that thought. That's
okay. All right, because my point was totally different, and I've never murdered anybody, never.
I wasn't you know, it was just you inspired the thought because
I understand. I get it. But yeah, I mean, you know, there's for whatever reason he got off or however these things worked out, you know, hopefully he's learning from these things. And seems like, you know, yeah, with all the stuff that's going on currently, yeah, he's got more lessons to learn because he's got to find some kind of way to keep himself out of the middle of these different things. Now, of course, the guy that grew, you know, came through his backyard or crossing his property or whatever, he didn't kill him. Well, he could have, you know what I'm saying? And it would have been just like, yeah, this dude was coming up. I told him to stop, and you know, he could have done it.
Yeah, but it's just too many damn incidents, bro. Like, how many incidents have you had where you had to shoot somebody or beat somebody up in your whole damn life?
No murder.
This dude is like 20 something years old. Let me play this clip right
Nah,
now.
he's gotta be at least 30, right?
I don't know. He's young. Let me play this.
It's right with me. Man, it's something wrong with me. It's a Friday night. All I want to do is go home and plant some tomato plants. I'm excited about digging my fingers into the earth. I don't know if something's wrong with me or something's right with me.
That's so perfect, bro. That's so perfect. I didn't know what he was talking about. I just had to play it. But that's funny because he sounds just like you, right? To me, I hear you because you've been screaming that for the past couple weeks, a month or more.
Shit.
On every episode. Y'all go plant some tomatoes. Shit.
Plant something. I mean, go plant something, honestly.
Go plant some tomatoes. Shit. It's that time
Yeah,
of
well,
the
you
year.
know, I'm gonna share with you too the there's you know, because you know we have different classes and stuff bi-weekly in our region, and you know, of course, the chief, he comes on whenever he's got something important to say. But you know, the whole like just learn how to grow stuff inside the house. You know what I'm saying? Like you can create your own greenhouse effect in your house.
Well, I've done it.
Well, I know you have. I'm just saying, but still, in all, it's just like I done seen all the different kind of plants you done had. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've done it.
Walking up to the doorstep. Oh yeah, that right there. That's some beans or you know whatever it was. Is it? But no, come over here. Look at this.
Yeah. Because man, I man. Anyways, yeah. So yeah. What you're saying, it just makes me smile because I wish everybody, because people just need to think outside of the box, you know. You know, the grass that they use is like it's basically an invasive species, bro. It's foreign. A lot of times it's a German strand of grass that get, you know, and it's native to Germany. Like it doesn't grow well here, and it's parasitic. And it's also the other insects and animals don't fucking react well to it because it's not native to here. So it's so retarded. Like that's why I was focusing on like the landlords and stuff like that, and just like basically the whole system at all. Because the system of going to the city or living in the suburbs, building these houses, putting these fences up, laying out this grass, that whole shit is bullshit. That's the whole fucking bullshit right there. So look. What I'm saying is like, it's why you gotta have grass. You know what I'm saying? And people like, oh, it's so beautiful. And then people compete for the best looking grass and shit. And then they spend a bunch of money on, you know, and time doing that shit. And you can't eat that, you know. You know, why not grow a bunch of shit that you could eat? You know what I'm saying? Or why not just grow a bunch of flowers or something that's just like really good for the environment that attracts. Because I don't like pets, and I think that we should kind of like, that's just how I feel now. I'm feeling more and more like I don't like pets. We should enjoy nature free, but we can but we can attract them right in our door. My mom and them does this. They do it with birds and something else. I mean, I'd have to talk to her. I wish she was here. But they build stuff on their property that attracts these different animals, and then they just watch them while they're, you know, whatever. They're sitting on the swing.
Mm-hmm. I thought rice when I'm out, you know, different places, like I would throw rice birds come, and there's like birds around the house. You know, that's like a, you know, like, I don't know if it's true, but I've seen successes in life, you know, more than I've seen failures. So I think it works. But either way, you know, just doing little stuff like that, like a bird bath, having that type of stuff available. I actually really want, like, when I get my next bit of property, I really want to have me like put one of those a hive, like build a station where I can collect honey. You know what I'm saying? Just different things like that. That'll be available. I don't know if Chief will be, you know, saying that's something that'll be, you know, good or not, because there's certain things that the certain sugars or whatever. But either way, I mean, it could be something I could sell. You know what I'm saying, to others that can take that type of stuff. You know, but either way, but that was one of the ideas I had.
I think honey is a healthy sugar because it's like a fruit. But I think that's, like, again, with all things in moderation. But it's just that's a situation where you start looking at the grams or calories or whatever, because the amount of honey is where the problem will come in. Yeah.
Yeah. The calories and all that. Yeah.
Because honey is good, and so you have what do they call them? They call them good sugars and bad sugars.
Well, yeah, I mean,
honey
but
has
I think
good sugar.
Well, and I think there's certain types of honey that's better. Well, I mean, of course, getting honey that's from your, you know, area is always going to be better, you know, because you're talking about the pollens that's in the area that helps you fight off sickness.
And I wish people understood that better, because then they need to put that in our medicine, and they need to put that in our. But, you know, that guy that I follow and I like a lot, and I was talking about him in the other shows, Chaka Bars, he sells fruit. Like, that's one of the main things he do. He got like a fruit thing that he sells, like exotic
fruits and vegetables in your own area is going to be more beneficial to you than something that comes from across the state, across the world.
And that's the thing. So I'm sure that this guy, being as intelligent as he is and in tune with nature, knows that, you know, selling these exotic fruits, and he's telling them that it's good for you, it's healthy. You know, he's got to know that.
Yeah.
So
and of course, stuff that's in season, like that's another thing. Knowing that, like,
that's the whole problem.
The fruits and vegetables that grow in that season is gonna treat you better than the ones that you get.
And that's the whole problem with eating it from across the world, because the season is different on that side of the world at that time of the year. Period. It's really simple.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, so you have to, you know, for your body is attuned to the environment that you live in. Just like we were saying earlier, it's so it changes and, you know, evolves all the time, daily. So
when the winter comes, I mean, of course, having things that you may have kept and frozen and, you know, that you're pulling out now, that's something totally different, because you're going through a season that's bare, like, you know,
you're deprived of those same, like, vitamins or whatever. Yeah.
So I mean, that's different, but at the same time, the spring is going to have certain things that's going to bring you, you know, certain elements of, you know, what was going on.
But
like it's going to.
Again, I think that goes back to the bush. That's why I say it's really simple. Because if you was in the bush, what you're going to be doing is springtime, the berries is popping out on the trees. What you're going to be doing? You're gonna be walking around and picking the damn berries off the damn trees and eating them as you walk through.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we did that when we were, if you want to call it the bush, when we was living in the country. I mean, shit, we walking through shit. Oh, damn, there's some crab apples. Okay, grab a couple of mugs. You know,
Me
shit,
too.
we might eat a few of them without even them being washed. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
just rub it
'Cause
on
you
your shirt
young,
and
you
eat it.
kids, and you out there.
The
Yeah,
plums, the blueberries, like the blueberry bushes my grandmother had.
all of
Like,
that
I mean,
shit.
yeah, we can just be out there playing and be like, oh, yeah, let's get us some and just do it. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely beneficial. But, you know, of course, speaking to more the majority of people who are not in that situation, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm telling you, bro, like, I can't wait. Like, I want to have orchard, like, you know, and I'm saying orchards, but I definitely want to have me a few different trees of
I
different
always wanted to grow trees. That's the one
fruit tree,
thing that I
fruit
haven't
trees.
done
Yeah,
successfully. But I tried. I planted a plum tree when I had
it
a
takes a while.
house, and I
Eh,
had it for years, and it never fruited. And I put a lot of work into it, but it was a baby tree when I bought it though, and they were saying that you have to wait till it gets to maturity. So, and maybe that's just all it was. It just wasn't mature enough to bear fruit. So, that's one
Well,
of the
you know,
things.
I think it goes through a shot because if you get one that's going through the premature stages, like if it's above, like actually above ground, and then it's taken out of the ground to be sold somewhere. Like, I mean, you just enslaved
Chopped
the
up a
kid.
baby, yeah.
Yeah,
And
you
you
just
cut pieces off of it because you couldn't have. If you digging it up, you're gonna be cutting some of them roots. So parts
some
of
of
it got cut out.
some of the roots, and as well as some of the stems and things that was.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, you
that would
kind of taking a
definitely be
chance.
shocking. imagine, some that's like getting kidnapped and somebody cut off a piece of your foot, and then they took you to a new place. You're like, what the
Yeah,
fuck?
yeah.
Might take you a little while to recover. I'm really curious about what this Putin is saying. Let's hear this.
They must know the following. And if they create strategic threats for us, which are unacceptable to us, they must know that our response, our retaliation to those attacks will be very fast. We have all instruments for that. Such instruments as nobody can boast. And we're not going to boast. We're going to use them if we have to. But what I would like to stress here now, I've already said that at the beginning. Said that at the beginning of the special military operation, and I stress once more: if anybody intends to interfere from outside into the events, they must know the following. And if they create strategic threats for us, which are unacceptable to us, they must know that our response, our retaliation.
I ain't gonna lie, bro. That's scary, bro. Because I heard something about like some bombing happening. It wasn't in Russia. But it was on like the edge of Russia. It was close to the border of Russia, and having to do with like a supply line or something. And freaking Ukraine don't have the capabilities to do that. And so that's what he's talking about with this.
Say, bro, I don't want to know if this dude is real or not. I mean, I know he real. I know he mean what he fucking saying, but I don't want to see how real he is.
Right. And so we're playing with fire with that shit, man.
I mean, whether he, ever try to come, send some shit our way, which I kind of doubt. I mean, it would, if anybody, I would say it would be more like China that would try to do some shit like that, China or Korea. But either way, I mean, just to see it happen to anybody, I don't say, bro, they playing. Like,
Yeah, they
playing.
fucking poking the bear, bruh. And I think Doc was mad at me, and like I'm defending Russia, and I'm like, you know, but I'm not,
It's
I'm
really not.
not.
I mean, cause see, I feel what you're saying. And hopefully, what I'm about to say can kind of clear things up. Is because defending right and wrong should never be off the chart for us just because. Now, am I for the safety of my family, my friends, all my loved ones, my fellow citizens? Yes, but at the same time, we have to realize that it is our government that has started every conflict that we've seen all over the world, even the one that we're seeing right now with Russia and Ukraine. The United States did that. So, believe it or not, that's up to you. But it all leads back to the U.S. involvement. And their greed, their selfishness, their pride is what's really fueling a lot of the stuff that you see around the world. Most of the wars that is happening in the world started from U.S. involvement.
And I can't really argue with that. But I don't think it's really about good and bad. I think it's more about like what actually happened or what is actually happening so that people can really understand, the dynamics and the intricacies and the nuances of the situations so that they can make judgments themselves about the situations. You know what I'm saying? So the media doesn't want people to make judgments on their own. They give them narrative already off top, so you already know where to go with things, even when they don't tell you. It's just like, it's a given.
Well, because I mean, the U.S. has gotten to the point where, like, because I mean, we still can, manufacture. We can still like produce foods and things like that. I mean, I think even France and different other countries in Europe can, but they want to use their land for something different, more partying and like fun stuff instead of making it more of a tourist attraction instead of something that'll be beneficial to their own country that's done in their own country. So we're relying on resources from other places, and when we can't get it the way that we want it, we go over there, we steal it, or we force
and I don't want I don't want people to think that we're bashing Russia. Like, I mean, not bashing Russia, but like supporting Russia, like feeling like
No.
what I'm saying. That's not what I'm doing. Like, I'm not like picking a side. It's like what. Like I said, damn it, I lost it. Fucking.
There's a truth and then there's a non-truth.
Right.
And for us to realize, at least know where all these things are stemming from, you can choose for yourself where whether you think they're right or wrong for doing what they're doing for whoever you choose. But I think us just clearly trying to put out there a message of what things that the average person is not seeing.
Use your brain and think, because it's like you said, we don't want it. We really don't want it. And it's just that idea of America, you know what I'm saying? It's like just following the narrative of what they're saying, or like cry for Ukraine. And it's like you keep following the narrative, you are beating the drum for war with Russia, bro. And we don't. Nobody wants that.
Look, I'm gonna tell you, personally, I've been a misunderstood person all my life. So to some extent, I know my heart and I know what I'm trying to express, and I want people to be able to see more of that. But for those who don't, I can't really help you out much more, because I know that there's a certain group of people that's only going to want us that only when they see it this way, no matter how much I talk and I show examples of my feelings on different views, it won't matter, because they already made their mind up. They don't want to like me, or they don't want to, what I'm saying, like they prefer the narrative that they've already hanging on to or sold themselves So I mean, but either way, I'm just being, just showing examples of what I see. Things that everybody can't use my eyes, so I'm just kind of expressing things that I believe. And if I'm wrong, hey, come back at me. So, well, what about this? I'm down for that. Like, show me that I'm wrong. I'm cool with that. You can come on the show and we can have a discussion. But either way, I think that we're asking for some trouble long term if we don't pay attention. We're not, seeing what's at our back door. That's mainly it.
We talked about the video of Harvard's connection to slavery, but I don't think we played that video. Did we play that video?
Yeah.
We played that?
Did we? I don't. Wait a minute. Did we? I don't know if we played. Yeah. No, I can't remember if we played the video or not. I know we had small talk about it.
Yeah, I remember talking about it, but I don't think we played it. I want to play a few clips of that just to kind of give us another topic. We're 2.5 hours, and we'll talk about something before we wrap it. So let's chop this up. I'm not going to play all of this. I'm just going to play clips, and we can just talk about it as it brings up stuff.
I'm Amy Goodman, joined by Democracy Now! Co-host Nermeen Sheikh.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.
Harvard University has pledged to spend $100 million to redress the school's deep ties to slavery. The move comes after the school issued a 130-page report Tuesday that revealed at least 41 prominent people connected to the school owned enslaved people. The report states, quote, enslaved men and women served Harvard presidents and professors and fed and cared for Harvard students. Moreover, throughout this period and well into the 19th century, the university and its donors benefited from extensive financial ties to slavery. Harvard school newspaper, The Crimson, dedicated its front page listing the names of individuals enslaved by leadership, faculty, staff, and donors at Harvard University between 1636 and 1783. The Harvard Crimson wrote, almost certainly an undercrown. The editor's note added, quote, for these people, we often know only their nicknames. For a few, we know only their race and gender. This is the result of the systemic erasure that to this day continues to deny enslaved people their histories, the Harvard Crimson.
Whoa. That's so heavy, right? And this is an example of what I be saying about them still having the money in their damn bank account.
Well, they said they get given $100 million to
where
figuring out how to.
Yeah. Is that gonna be reparations? Where that money going?
Oh, shit.
Why don't just give it to some black people?
Well, I mean, I think it may be because for some of the families that's directly affected by some of the things that because I mean, they benefited directly with science, with a lot of these things, whether it was Harvard, Brown University, and other prominent schools, where they were using the bodies of some of these slaves to advance, I guess, in their opinion, advance science. But
yeah, they're gonna mention that in this video about how to this day there's some skeletons that they have that they use in the classrooms that were
and they don't want to release it.
And it was a person that had got lynched, skinned, and then their bones donated to fucking science.
Yeah.
I wonder how that person would feel to know that they use his bones in a classroom to teach the kids how to, this, that, and the other.
Shit, his spirit might be right there with the bones. Like, man, you got to be kidding me.
Y'all on that bullshit. I can't even rest. I'm talking about rest in peace. Y'all ain't say rest in peace for me. What about my rest in peace?
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna let it go
because his family, bro, that's real. The people that's alive, his ancestor, he's an ancestor to someone, and directly, and these people probably still alive today. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I think there was one lady that actually spoke up about one of them being her ancestor. So I mean,
so how would you feel if it's your family members' bones up in the classroom like that, and your family never gave permission or nothing for this?
But that's the type of stuff that kind of like really bothers me, because as much as I love America, the land of America, United States has done some shit under the guise and under the laws in which, you know, people ignore or promote it. The different things that was promoted here, we have to realize at some point that some of these things are just totally out of place, and find, you know, us as people living today that can make a change has to make a change. So, you know, we can continue down the same path that our predecessors have gone, you know, have led us, or we can do something that's going to be different that could be more beneficial to us all.
And for us to make any change, we got to reconcile with our past, and we haven't done that as a nation, as a country, as a culture, you know. And that's why I like to go back to you can look at the civil rights era, and you can look at Reconstruction, and both failed, you know, and it failed because they couldn't
purposely. No,
you know, they wouldn't.
It's not that
couldn't or wouldn't.
No, it
face
wasn't. Couldn't. It was
the
not
reality, you know,
Yeah.
of things. You know,
couldn't is not even a thing. This a miracle.
Yeah.
There's no thing that we couldn't do. It's just there's things that they wouldn't do.
Let me play some more of this.
Crimson said. We begin today looking more at the new report, Harvard and the Legacy of Slavery, which is accompanied by a short video. This is an excerpt about how enslaved people were used to serve Harvard students and faculty.
The evidence of the legacy of slavery at Harvard is in the landscape. You can go to the old burial ground and you can see the headstones for two enslaved people. One of them, a girl named Cicely, was enslaved to William Brattle, who was a tutor, a treasurer, and a fellow at Harvard University.
We also know that several of Harvard's presidents who lived in Wadsworth House, which is still standing on campus today, owned enslaved people of African origins, among them Venus, Bilal, and Juba.
That's an excerpt from the video that accompanies the Harvard report. In this clip, Harvard fellow Christopher D.E. Willoughby tells the story of an African teenage boy who was later dissected and studied by a Harvard professor.
Stormon is a particularly tragic figure. He's only 17 years old. At the end of about 6 months to a year of being on display, he takes his own life. He hangs himself. But Stormon's tragedy doesn't end with his death. When Stormon kills himself, they give his body to Harvard.
Harvard faculty member Jeffries Wyman conducted a dissection of Stormon's body, and they also made a set of casts of his body that remains in the Harvard Peabody Museum collections.
His skeleton is turned into a teaching tool. They say it's left in the care, what irony, of Professor Louis Agassiz. Stormon is measured and put in a linear position anatomically between whites and great apes. So not only is his body being destroyed, he's also being turned into this point of data to prove his own inferiority.
Again, an excerpt from
comments.
I probably should be quiet. You know, my real thoughts is probably gonna have people, you know, just saying, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go to bed. I don't want to do this shit." So,
yeah. Well, we can lightly touch it because this is really sensitive and
well, the
painful.
part that I'm gonna tell you, the part that bothered me the most. I mean, well, I say the most, but the way that they're saying that they place him in between white people and great apes.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't think, you know, they realize the, you know, it would be the opposite. You know, the way that falls. I mean, I know a lot of people have fooled themselves into thinking that one, you know, that the opposite race is closer to the Neanderthal or monkeys than another, but you know, that's the part that, you know, I think where humanity misses a lot, and like they treat people, because if they realize it was themselves, maybe they would be more sympathetic to be like, well, damn.
Well, I think that's the whole issue. But you know, as an anthropologist, you know, we look at things as like race as a social construct. But the whole thing is the inferiority complex of you know, that's what makes you behave that way, and even come up with this stuff to like legitimate, you know.
But you believe in evolution, right?
I do.
At least to some extent, because
that's what we study.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, trying to, you know, I don't go to the extent of, you know, people were just all people were monkeys. I think that there was a group that was similar because of something that happened in our world, because God created a group of people. A group of people played around with science and created other people.
Yeah, see, I don't really want to go down this road because, you know, I agree with you on certain parts, but I think it's parts that you don't understand because you haven't done the studying related to evolution.
You have
that I have done.
I've done the study. I may not have done the research, but I've done the study of researches that people have done. You know, that's like extensively.
Yeah.
So trust me.
But when people talk about God creating, that goes into the same philosophy that they have. You know, God created.
There was an original.
But that's not how evolution doesn't work that way necessarily. Like what I'm trying to say. You're right.
That's fine. Your perspective of evolution.
You're right to a certain extent, but that's the whole argument. People argue this in school, like, and that's the reason why people take their kids out of schools and put them in the J suit and academy, and so you know, so that they
take them out of school so they don't have to learn CRT because it was reality. Like they don't have to deal with
exactly. Before that, they don't have to learn about evolution because evolution is reality, and people want to say, you know, God created. Anyways, let's play some more of this.
And the video with the new Harvard report titled Harvard and the Legacy of Slavery. The report does not mention Harvard is facing a lawsuit from a descendant of two enslaved people named Renti and Delia, who were forced to pose in a photograph by a Harvard professor in 1850. Tamara Lanier filed the lawsuit saying the university is unfairly profiting from their images. In response to Harvard's new report, Lanier tweeted, "Stop gaslighting us, Harvard." She also tweeted, if Harvard truly embraced the principles in their report, the Lanier versus Harvard lawsuit would not be necessary. For more, we're joined by MIT history professor Craig Steven Wilder, who has long followed this issue closely, the author of Ebony and Ivy, Race, Slavery, and the Troubled History of America's Universities. Professor Wilder, welcome back to Democracy Now! We interviewed you almost a decade ago when your book came out. Can you respond now now in 2022 to Harvard University saying they're committing $100 million to deal with their connections to slavery, and talk about the significance of their findings.
To hide it or what?
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. What is the money going to go?
Yeah, when he said to deal with it, that's where I
basically.
Go ahead.
Yeah, when they say to deal with it, $100 million to deal with it, that makes me question, how do you want it dealt with? Like, you want, to sweep shit under the rug, like the people that it could be affected, do we off them so that they can shut the hell up and leave you alone?
Do we just pay off a couple of people and just,
try to get them to shut up? Yeah, just to try to get them shut up. But, the thing is that they're still exploiting these people. I mean, dead or alive. I mean, you're exploiting someone and their family members that's obviously has an issue, and instead of going directly to them and have dealing with it, whether you can settle this thing without going to court, shows that there's a problem.
That's what the lady was saying. Yeah, because that's what she just said. She said if they really cared, we wouldn't even be doing this lawsuit.
Yeah, because I'm sure before they try to make a lawsuit, they went and talked to them. Hey, this thing y'all doing, if y'all don't realize it, you're really touching on some things that's, like strikes us, and we're family. We're directly related to these people, and just to see it the way that you're putting it up is a bothersome thing. Is that, oh, you know what? I apologize. We'll take it down. We can't do anything about what we've already sent out there and what has happened to it, but there won't be any more from here on.
But instead, Harvard says, fuck you.
I mean, that would be assumed, you know what I'm saying? Like, of course, they're not going to say that in the publication, saying, those words, but you would definitely have to assume that that's where it went to because of where they are now.
So. Screw you and your family and their bones. We still own you anyways. You ain't free. Emancipation don't mean nothing.
But look, while you talking shit, that's how some of these people really look.
And think. That's how they think.
Well, that's what I'm saying. How they look at it. This is how they see it. This is, that's the mindset that they actually have. Because I mean, if you really look, I mean, the laws are no different than they were then. Like, I mean, regardless of what you think the Emancipation Proclamation was, the proclamation, the words of Abraham Lincoln, regardless of what you might think it says, it only redistributed the same process that, like, you can still be owned, but
because somebody. I was watching a video. It says you emancipate a child, and that's why we be saying all the time, you want to look up the words, and you emancipate a child, and then you put them in the jurisdiction of the state. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly it. I mean, that's the definition.
But you're doing that with man, woman, and child. That's that's exactly what happened to what you call slaves. You took them from a home. If you wanted to say, like, okay, from private owners or from your nuclear family, if you want to call it that to some extent, just to explain this, you took them from one family and made you pretty much property of every city, state that, any city or state that they lie in. Okay, some people might see that as freedom, but it's not true freedom.
It's just privileges. So you get a number of privileges.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's it. No rights. There's still no rights, and everything that you have been awarded throughout since that time are privileges. Because I mean, whether you realize it or not, because of your you having to ask them, or them allowing you something, is not something that you're exercising on your own. They allowed you to do it.
And it's like every single system is set up that way. You got to ask them for permission and all of this stuff. Ask them for permits and go to court. And if they summon you to show up, you got to show up. And then all of this shit, like they're exercising their jurisdiction over you, and you are submitting to their jurisdiction. And so you know, it's like, what kind of autonomy do you really have? How much power do you really have as a human? You know what I'm saying? As a naturalized human, or however you want to say it. I can't find the words, but a free individual.
Yeah.
Or a nation, or however you want to say it.
A national, yeah. I mean, because that's what it goes to. I mean, unless you're and I think it still kind of depends on, by what way you became a national too. Because I mean, immigrants, I think they still, because they're nationals of their own country, and based on the agreements that's made between the United States and those countries, still may have you just as much of a slave as you were in your own country. But I don't know, it really goes deep. I mean, unless you've actually studied a lot of this, and depending on what angle you're coming from is how you have to deal with that. But
what up, JT?
What's going on, y'all? Y'all doing the
chilling, man. How you feel?
What's up, bro?
I'm cooling, brother. I'm cooling.
Did you know that Harvard still had the bones of somebody's ancestor that's alive right now today that has a problem with it?
One of their slaves.
No, I didn't know that. Harvard?
Sitting up in the classroom right now.
Yeah, they actually had slaves on campus that assisted and serviced faculty and staff as well as students.
And they have a whole bunch of money as a result of all of this shit still to this day that they've been flipping this whole time. Part of the reason why Harvard is so rich.
One of. There's many reasons why they're rich, but I mean, you get a school that can donate $100 million just kind of at a blink of an eye. You just have to say,
and they're shitting out that money. That's some hush money. That's some. We don't want to give these niggas reparations for shit money.
But at the same time, that should be somewhat scary to others, because if, like I said, that's ransom money, or blood money, what could be turned into some blood money real quick.
Yeah, because what would a nigga do for $100 million?
What will they do for $1 million?
Yeah.
Just talking about who you want me to off, boss? I'll whack them all.
For real, like tell them to come here for an appointment to come see you.
And it's really sad because every time how they get all of these, they always infiltrate these systems, like the Black Panthers. That's how they got broken apart from the inside. They was filled with agents.
It was filled with agents, but the thing is that the Brotherhood was weakening. Like, there was drugs being involved in certain things, and then it's hard to trust people when you're on drugs. Like, I can see that, or even when the people around you are on drugs, like, to trust them is gonna be hard. So they were getting weakened from within on their own part. Then they have other influences, people that's coming in that's getting paid to infiltrate. Of course, on the higher level, there's the people who have designed all of these efforts to some extent. I mean, during that time, it was still what was the dude that they said was dressing up in dresses? I can't think of it. Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover. So he was a dirty dude, period. You know what I'm saying? He was setting people up all the way around. So they, and like I said, I mean, it's somewhat genius, like an evil genius, to be able to do some of the things they did, because like they knew one thing would turn into this, so they just pretty much set them up, and
Let
we
the
weren't
dominoes.
we weren't we weren't prepared for that kind of that level of calculation.
Definitely not. Let me play some more of this.
20 years since Ruth Simmons became the president of Brown University back in 2003, and media attention turned to the public sort of secret of Brown's extensive ties to the slave trade. Ruth Simmons back then actually commissioned a report that was eventually published in 2006, the Slavery and Justice Report, that actually laid out Brown's extensive ties to slavery and the slave trade and came forward with recommendations. We now sit, as you say, 19, 20 years later, and Harvard has come forward with this report. That's been a long journey, but the report actually documents an extraordinarily extensive, deep history between the university and slavery that begins at its founding in 1636. Almost immediately, Harvard had an enslaved African on its campus, a man who was simply referred to as the Moor, and who was used to serve the students.
You see the terminology, which bothers me a lot. I mean, maybe he was an African. I mean, the possibility is there, but at the same time, what was his nickname they called him?
Moor. He was simply referred to as the Moor, and he was used to serve the students. And this is from day one, Jump Street of the school.
Yeah. So, yeah, bro. I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, but I don't want to get caught up on the other part. I mean I mean, just when I'm hearing it, I get triggered.
I know it's definitely triggering. That's why I paused there. It's triggering for me. It's jarring.
That man likely arrived in Massachusetts on a ship named the Desire. It was the first slave ship to leave New England. It was carrying captive enslaved Pequot Indians into Bermuda and the West Indies, where they were sold for various goods, including Africans.
Pause.
They were traded for what? Gold? Well, I guess different levels, amounts of it, but
wait, when they teach you about the slave trade in school, the arrows show the ships coming from Africa to the United States. This guy just said,
"You boy done went to sleep."
Nah, I ain't sleep.
I'm gonna take this back for the people who missed it. These guys said they were taking Indians from here to over there and trading them for gold and shit. Let me play this.
Well, see, but let me say this, because that's one of the things that people overlook. They think that, because I mean, even like for the Africans that did come, like any cargo ship, they not like it.
It's never empty.
It carries
both
cargo,
ways.
Both ways. So
both
never
ways.
think that exactly. So I mean,
it's common sense, but they don't teach us that. They don't teach us that in the history, and then it just shows, like I say, they show those maps and they show those arrows, and the arrows just showing coming from Africa.
One way,
like the ships.
Well, they show that, but you see, that's where the narrative goes. Like, that's how they want to sell it to the people, because they want it to look one way. But until you really deep dive and you really, understand the processes and really
all you got to do
common sense
is look at how we do it today. Do you ever see an empty cargo ship, whichever direction it's going in?
Yeah, barges that, like, whether it's a cargo ship or either the barges that's being pushed along the rivers,
whichever direction they're going in, they got stuff on it.
Yeah.
Enslaved Pequot Indians into Bermuda and the West Indies, where they were sold for various goods, including Africans. Carrying captive enslaved Pequot Indians into Bermuda and the West Indies, where they were sold for various goods, including Africans. And so really, Harvard's ties to slavery begin with the founding of the institution. And as the report lays out, Harvard depended upon slavery and the slave economy, both in New England, but also in the South and the West Indies, for virtually all of its history. Harvard's history with slavery goes well into the late 19th century, and I would add that after its ties to slavery end, and they end somewhat involuntarily, Harvard actually then goes to the work of erasing the story of slavery from its past. And so we're really only beginning to reconcile and to really struggle with the deep ties that this institution has to slavery.
And Professor Wilder, in addition, of course, to this clear complicity between Harvard University and other elite universities to slavery, there was also the question in the report that was raised about Harvard faculty advancing theories of racial difference and eugenics. Could you talk a little bit about that?
You know, one of the sort of striking findings is that in the 19th century, as race science really comes to dominate the academy, it's the period when science really comes to take over and the modern university gets established. That part of its modernity is its claim to science, its claim to expertise, its claims to a kind of precision in academic research. And the way that that happens is the scientists really turn themselves over to the slave economy. They become, in fact, the chief defenders of slavery, but not just at Harvard, but at universities across the United States.
I think it's a very important point, because what you have to understand is these were small institutions at one time. They wanted funding, and this is how things work today. You know, you please the powers that be. It's just like the other story with the France being friendly to Germany. You're pleasing to the powers that be so that they can give you, you know, the resources that you want to do the stuff that you want to do. So, you know, the powers that be are a bunch of people who made a whole bunch of money off of chattel slavery, and they get to own even the descendants. They're basically breeding humans. That's a lucrative ass business right there. So, you know, so they put money into these universities for the universities to produce science, something that's irrefutable, or something that, you know, something that the people can grab a hold to and be like, oh, you know, so it is, you know, it's okay, you know, it's all right, it's justified. So that's what they do today with these big corporations and all the news media. They justify, you know, the horrible shit that these big corporations do, because the corporations they send money to these institutions to produce content that, you know, defends their behavior.
Yeah. I mean, they're actually, you know, allowing them an avenue that, you know, like, I mean, just think about as far as labor laws. I mean, this is before really labor laws are really taking any kind of stance within the government. And really, slavery is the labor law. Like, gee, you better get your slave. You want, you know what I'm saying, need some people to work for you. So it's
still like that today.
It's still that way. I mean, it does. It's
your
just
own
at
business. That's how they say it.
It's a different perspective of how it's seen from then to now, but it's really still with the same principles. It's still the same thing.
Let me play a little bit more. I don't know how much more I'm gonna play this.
States, race science really sort of thrives. Louis Agassiz, who's mentioned in the beginning of your introduction to this, the Harvard race scientist, used enslaved people on a South Carolina plantation for his research. Enslaved people were actually used as research material on colleges and university campuses across the United States. At Dartmouth, which has one of the oldest medical schools, one of the college physicians actually uses the body of an enslaved man. And much like Louis Agassiz, the description that you gave earlier, he takes the body of this enslaved man, Cato, and skins him. He tans the skin of this enslaved black man like leather and uses it to dress his instrument case. And then he takes the skeleton of the enslaved black man and strings it together for instructional purposes. The beginning of science at the American College and the American University is in fact a story of the violent consumption of living and deceased enslaved people.
Wow. Like this dude is heavy, bro. And
just think about how brutal that is, bro. Like, I mean, the guy may have been dead, but just think of what, like, in order to do that to a human being,
you don't have no respect. You could turn him into a shoe. You know, it was like leather. Nigga leather. They would use skin and make boots and purses and stuff. It just shows the lack of respect. You know what I'm saying? Like, that thing is not human. So, you know, just like how you make leather out of, you know, you make an alligator shoes, or, you know, whatever you use, cow skin.
Yeah.
No different.
All right. Is there more?
I'm gonna play a little bit more. I know this is really painful.
Professor Wilder, as you pointed out earlier, the Brown University report appeared in 2006, but it was only in 2019 that the Harvard president said that such research should be conducted at Harvard. Why did it take so long? Like, what kind of pressure led to this?
You know, I always start with Ruth Simmons at Brown, because I think as the first African-American woman, the first woman and the first person of color to head an Ivy League institution, simply pretended that this story was unique to Brown alone. Undergraduates did their senior theses on these topics, and that's what kept this story alive. You know, my administration, Sven Beck, a decade or so, is that students have really not just produced a lot of the research that we're now actually beginning to 2019, in fact, exactly 2 years ago, to tax themselves, to impose fees on themselves in order to begin to pay reparations to the enslaved people who were used to both build Georgetown and fund its first 50 years of existence, and then who were sold in 1838 from Maryland into Louisiana. And the profits from that sale were used to pay off the debts of the college. It was the undergraduates who actually restarted.
Black people should own that college.
Started the reparations conversation. It was the undergraduates. It was student activism that brought us back to this moment.
I wanted to turn to the short film again that premiered along with the launch of the Harvard University report. In this clip, Harvard professor describes how Harvard Law School was founded.
In 1736, Antigua's plantation owners became fearful that enslaved workers were plotting against them, and they decided to crack down.
The royal family was involved in putting down this slave uprising. A lot of head chopping, decapitations to make people as examples, burning people.
Then Isaac Royal Sr. migrated back to New England to his huge property, several hundred acres of land. He brought enslaved workers from the Caribbean to Medford to work. Eventually, Isaac Royal Jr. donates lands to Harvard University, which the university then sells and uses to endow the first professorship of law at Harvard University.
And some people take that as the founding of the Harvard Law School.
Craig, Stephen Wilder, this is pretty powerful stuff. What we're talking about here, I mean, it is just a story that some have known in this country, but and it certainly goes further than Harvard. But the story of Harvard Law School and its connection to the Caribbean slave trade, if you can explain who the royal family are, and the fact you've got this endowed chair as well at Harvard Law School named for them.
Yeah. You know, the royal family is a family, as the film points out, that traces back to Antigua, an Antiguan plantation family in the 18th century. They removed to Medford, Massachusetts, just outside Cambridge and Boston. Later in the century, Isaac Royal Jr. actually on that farm, that small plantation, has some 60 enslaved people. And that's the family that eventually actually donates the land that helps to fund and begin the law professorship at Harvard. I would point out that this is the story actually of professional education broadly. Medical schools in the 18th century begin with the dissection and consumption of the bodies of enslaved Black people and often Native Americans. They begin, the very first medical school in North America, which is now at the University of Pennsylvania, then was the College of Philadelphia, begins when the colonial legislature transfers the body of a Black person to the scientists so they can do a public dissection and show, in fact, the new medical arts, display them and display the necessity of them. Law schools actually at Harvard, at Yale, at Columbia have very similar origin stories. They're actually tied directly into slavery. And law students at Harvard and Yale and Columbia who have actually been doing a lot of the research to expose their institutional ties to slavery. I would add that business schools also have these ties. The professionalization of business and the arrival of business on campus as an academic pursuit is very much tied to the evolution of this slave economy in the 19th century. And for institutions like mine, MIT here in Cambridge, the engineering schools and technical schools also have their origins in the 19th century slave economy. MIT wouldn't be here if cotton textile manufacturers didn't surround Boston. It was the cotton textile manufacturers who took cotton grown by enslaved people in the South, transformed it into textiles for the world market. If it wasn't for them, it was that group who needed engineers to build machines and improve efficiencies. And so professionalization in higher education, the arrival of the professional schools, is very much the story of the power and the influence of the 18th and 19th century slave economies.
I think that's enough.
You ain't gonna lie, I got a headache.
It hurts. Because the more you think about it, it's like, they're using Harvard as an example, but he was stressing the point that, Harvard is just one example. This is America. This is the basis of academics in America, and let's say United States. And so, what's crazy about that is the money, right? Like I be saying all the damn time. Like they told the story of the people who donated the land so that they could build the law school. Man, how do you think those people got that land in the first place?
Well, we already know how that happened. We had a conversation about that 2 days ago.
Yeah, so, and then they had people. Imagine if you could have people to work for free for you. How much money could you make if you had 10 people to work for free for you? You had to pay them.
Oh, man, millions, billions.
I'm going to read some. Go ahead.
Even during those times, or are you talking about like recent times?
It doesn't matter what times. It'll still be the same numbers. Millions, billions. You know what I'm saying? Let me read. This is the caption underneath the video right here. It says, Harvard University released a 134-page report this week that detailed the school's extensive ties to slavery and pledged $100 million for a fund for scholars to continue research
the topic. So the $100 million is for research on the topic. The report documents dozens of prominent people associated with Harvard who enslaved people, including 4 Harvard presidents. Harvard commissioned the study in 2019 as part of a wave of schools reckoning with their past and ongoing legacy of racial discrimination. Harvard's ties to slavery begins with the founding of the institution, says MIT historian Craig Stephen Wilder. Wilder says that while this history is not new, Harvard worked for decades to erase its complicity in slavery. We're really only beginning to reconcile and to really struggle with the deep ties that this institution has to slavery. They keep burying this history. That's why I cover this stuff, is because it's like redacted history.
Well, the transfer, you got to think about it.
The wealth transfer.
Yeah, well, not just the wealth transfer. I mean, that's, of course, the bottom line of it. But just the that's the trade going back and forth across the Atlantic or even nationally, whether it's from one state to another. It's like that transfer, like, to me, I don't know, like I said, that's like within this story, that is a trigger, because it's like, it was no big deal to sell somebody off, man. Like, I don't know, like, we all know how slavery went, and most of us know how, but just when you really think about it and you're looking at the intricacies of all of it, it's crazy.
You just get more upset and more upset and more upset. Like, let me read some more comments. It says, I sat next to an old Harvard graduate on a plane. It was quite fascinating to hear his talk on all the events surrounding social dynamics in the U.S. These Ivy League institutions produce a lot of morally bankrupt people. This one says, no matter how many times you try to rewrite history, the truth always finds a way to come out and reveal itself. You have to learn from the past instead of running away from it. I would agree with that person's comment. It says, I like to know more about UVA's slavery ties. I know the rotunda, etc., was built using slave labor, etc. But given the extent of this Harvard report, it would seem there's a lot more to uncover. UVA, I don't know what that is. University of Virginia. This is another comment. It says, this is the history that needs to be taught in our schools. This is also the history that makes Black people extremely crucial to the world, as there is a debt that not must be paid, but absolutely will be paid in money or in blood. The future can only tell which other races will decide. I pray that as humans, we have evolved past certain ways of handling conflict. However, the choice isn't on us, African descendants of slavery, alone. Another comment, it says, the evil that has been played out is horrifying. Another comment, it says, we never stopped being a slave country. As per the 13th Amendment loophole, we now have millions of slaves in prisons, unsurprisingly unrepresented by minorities and people born into poverty. There are things we must change. Change the 13th Amendment so that no one may be enslaved, and ideally force prisons to pay prison labor, the minimum wage, and while at it, everyone should have the right to vote if they are a citizen. If the prisons have to pay prisoners the minimum wage, it completely dismantles the economic incentive to get more people in prisons and keeps them there, since the business would no longer be making money off of prisoners but losing money. It should be de-incentivized to imprison and enslave people, obviously. Prisons will still exist for people who commit heinous acts, but many of the imprisoned committed fairly innocuous crimes such as drug possession and acts of desperation. If you had investment into your community regarding education, jobs, etc., do you think people would be less likely to commit crimes of desperation such as robbery? No. Note also that the vast majority of theft is wage theft, completely dwarfing petty theft. That was a great comment. Slavery, said the 13th Amendment loophole. That's one thing that we never really did. We never really outlawed slavery outright.
No, I mean that was the whole thing. Like they could have abolished it. Like there was so many abolitionists that was on the scene, especially during that time. That really it should have happened. We should be close to over 100 years of saying that slavery doesn't exist, but
on the books, it's never been. It's not. Nowhere does it say, it's illegal to, put somebody in bondage.
No,
stocks and bonds.
I mean, it was a part of the law. That was like one of those things that was, just like you have the right to get a job. You had a right to go get you employees for your business. You know what I'm saying? However you want to see that.
Yeah, whether you pay them or not, that's not our concern. That's between you and them. Let me read some more comments. It says, yes, thank you for this segment. The Royal House and slave quarters in Medford, MA, will hopefully be open to the public again. Another comment, it says, you should talk about Wells Fargo, AIG, and other major companies today that profited off of slavery as well. And that's what I'll be talking about, man. Wells Fargo has some direct ties. I think some of the banks, I think Chase Bank has a direct tie. Let me read some more. It says, famously, the radical abolitionist Senator Charles Sumner not only famously attacked Harvard and criticized them in his speeches, but was actually rejected from being made president of the college due to the fact he was an abolitionist, with the college famously saying, we do not want to disturb or bother our students from the South about the peculiar institution of practice. Notice how they say peculiar instead of the Sumner would say. For example, Sumner would say brutal, wicked, abominable to describe it. Yeah, that's weird because I read a book and it was called The Peculiar Institution in Texas, something like that. And basically it was talking about how, like, when you talk about the old South, a lot of times Texas gets a pass on that. But Texas did have slaves and did have slavery, and really slavery had a lot to do with Texas' whole inception and shit. So, but history, for some reason, Texas gets like a bit of a pass, and that's what this book was talking about, the peculiar institution in Texas. So it was talking about slavery in Texas, which a lot of books don't talk about. So when you think of slavery, you're thinking of what? Alabama, right? Louisiana, Georgia, right? South Carolina. You generally don't really think of plantations in Texas, right? I don't think they really have plantations per se in Texas, but they use the slaves in different ways.
Yeah. But then again, you gotta know, Jack Yates, first slave to get his freedom, they say. I went to Jack Yates High School, so that where I get that from. And that's right here in Texas.
Yep. I don't know the history with that. I might look that up.
Jack Yates was the first slave to get his freedom, so they say. And that's history on him.
I want to read a few more comments. It says,
With 42 billion in assets, 100 million is 1/420th of its net worth. Good deal for Harvard again. Harvard pays no taxes. Let that sink in. I literally became ill to my stomach listening to the description of what happened to Cato, i.e. skin shrunk together. Whenever I hear the words pledge funds, donations, my radar goes up. Who's going to actually count that 100 million? I know it's a scam. This is such an insightful interview. It says, it's only truth that sets a human soul free. The alternatives are lies and deceptions. Your freedom begins by embracing truth, and that is what educational endeavors try to achieve. That was a great comment. It says, knowing this history, I find the Harvard graduates should feel ashamed to their skeleton. It says these monsters has not changed. 1600 to this day, nothing has changed. It says, let me read a few more. It says, I highly recommend a video by Knowing Better called The Part of History You've Always Skipped, Neo-Slavery. It blew my mind. The plantation owner's great-great-grandchildren are running the 2021 plantation. They just modernized it with window dressing. That could have came out of my mouth. Yep. That wasn't my comment, though. I'm reading comments. Let me read some more. It says, still waiting since 1964 to have my adoption nullified and take back my legal birth certificate and not have that authority or custody be given back to my biological relatives or their relatives. As a child, I was legally removed from one group of abusive and dysfunctional group of people and placed into another group of abusive and dysfunctional group of people. I am in need of a lawyer to represent me. I am okay with going to the United States Supreme Court. This is as important as Brown versus Board of Education. It says there should have been federal legislation written centuries ago that allowed adopted people to help their adoption nullified. There should have been legislation in the United States Constitution or in the Bill of Rights or in the amendments that allows adopted people to have their adoption nullified regardless of their age. Several law enforcement, AG of CA, and the ACLU are a few organizations that have been informed. Why doesn't my birth certificate have the word adopted? This should be mandatory for all adopted people. The United States government and judiciary system failed to inform adopted people upon being adopted. Their legal problems will begin. I never thought about that before. So that's like, so you got adopted, but they don't, you can never know if nobody ever tells you. Now that would be sad.
Some parents, when they get their kids up for adoption, they I think they got the right to not be, disclosed or whatnot.
Yeah, so they give away all their rights, basically.
Right.
But what about the rights of the child? What about the rights of the child to know that these parents wasn't their biological parents?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me read a little bit more and I'm gonna wrap this. It says, with a 40 billion endowment, 100 million is chump change for Harvard. It stirs the brew, provides token money, and sits back and chuckles when the little guy gets a bill for reparations. Could that be why the Lincoln Manifesto to free slaves did not include northern states who did not choose to leaving the Union? Such brutality and inhumanity, nonetheless, the brutality and inhumanity is just laying dormant for the time being. A leper cannot change his spots. Reparations eat the rich. The controllers have used their power for far too long without real progress. I'm reading comments, y'all. These are not my words. The lawyers are going to have a great time if we go back in history and start suing anyone who was involved in slavery, because the lawyers will have a claim against everyone. Whatever. The question is, how intelligent are they really if they're able to do these things? It's like a malicious social club, how to be more evil. Damn. It says Charles Darwin would not have approved of this. He said that there is only one race of humans, Homo sapiens. All of us, black, brown, and white, we are all just one species. We are descendants of Africans. Our ancestors came from Africa over 100,000 years ago. All of us, black or white. We are all Africans. Also, listen to the lectures of Colonial Robert Greene Ingersoll. Okay. It says, thank you, Dr. Agboya on YouTube for your perfect and honest work. I was able to restore my health. What the hell? Comment?
So okay, they got the reparation money. They just ain't passing it out.
Exactly. They're going to keep sitting on it and flipping it. What makes me so angry about the whole thing is like, because the money is bigger now, you know? The longer you don't, the more they've been flipping it. So the more the damn, because if you owe somebody a bill, right, and you haven't paid them, right, don't they add interest on that shit?
That's right. I owed a student loan, and that bill kept going up every year.
So that's what happens. So the same thing happens when those people, because Harvard, I'm sure, has like an investment
called interest.
Well, they have an investment team or whatever. Somebody that's flipping the money, bro. Literally flipping the money. Just like people in the hood would say, you know, that's how they do. They flipping the money. Flipping it, flip it again. Buy something, sell something, whatever. Flip it again. So they've been flipping this money this whole time. And that's what gives people leverage, you know? And that's what gives people opportunity. You know? That's what gives people freedom. That's what gives people the ability, because see, they say freedom ain't free. You know, your privileges ain't free. You know? To be happy ain't even free. You know? You got to pay for all this stuff. Security, food, water, shelter, costs money. So you got people who got leverage, you know, over others, and it's a legacy left over from the past that hasn't been reconciled. And really, that's the basis of what I've been talking about this week, and why I was talking about France and basically talking about colonialism, because this thing, the right hasn't been wronged. Not only has the right hasn't been wronged, but they're still doing the same thing. Like, you know, it's the same. Extracting resources from people, especially Aboriginals, brown people, extracting them as a resource and extracting their resources from them, and, you know, commodifying it, you know, turning it into the stock market, turning it into the capitalist system that we live in. I'm tired, y'all. It's 5 a.m. I'm about to wrap it. Tomorrow, I'm just gonna wrap up whatever videos I sent y'all that I didn't cover, and we'll just talk about random stuff, whatever pops up. I'm still on France's ass, so I'm liable to, because I think it's some videos that's related to that I didn't play. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm on France. France, I'm on your head. You know what I'm saying?
You turned my mic off, I look like.
My bad.
But I was wanting to ask you, like, out of all of the European countries and those connected during that time or not, you know, because really, I guess Portugal started most of it. Why is it that you got so much more beef with France than?
Because Portugal ain't shit now. France is. You know what I'm saying? France is still
the UK.
London. Yeah. Well, there's others, but France is more powerful than those others. They are like, that's why when I covered how many people speak the French language, and they was like, what, number 3 or number 4 or some shit. Like, you know, that's another just a metric. You know what I'm saying? To show how powerful they are. You know, that's what I mean. I'm not just picking on France, but
no. I hear that. I don't care if you are.
Yeah.
I was just wondering what, you know, like if it.
That's my reason. That's the significance, because next to the United States, it you know, it's France, bro. I mean, I can't think of nobody else. Who else is it? On that same side, you know what I'm saying? When we're talking about the West, what, you know, academic in the academic term, it sucks that we have to use these terms, but you know what I mean when I say the West. So as far as the West, then who else is there next to the United States? It's France.
Well, and it's also, like I said,
You could say Germany and UK, but I think Germany is pretty damn powerful, but France is more powerful. You know, this is my argument. I think
then even London.
Yes. Well, Paris, France, London. Where's London in? London is in
England.
It's in the UK. Yeah. I would put them. I put France above them. Yes. Really. And because I mean, I know how you're thinking because of like the royal family and stuff. Yeah, and I get it.
But see, you know, that was one of the things I don't know if people overlooked, you know, really heard what they were saying, because like the royal family they were speaking about then in the 1800s, you know, you know, let's say during those periods they're talking about with what's the name, Harvard and Brown University, stuff like that. Like they what's up with that noise?
That's me, my bad. Let me stop. Eating diced onions.
What because I mean, you never really hear about this type of stuff, but the royal families that they were talking about, like they were kings and queens here in America during that time. Like before it came to the periods of you know, before the United States, like there were kings and queens over what we call states now. Like they were more like countries before it became where there was a union. They never really talk about that part of America's history. So that's what I don't know. I just wanted to kind of point that out, that, you know, we had royal families, because like North Carolina had kings, you know, their own. Virginia had their own king and queen, you know, queens and stuff like that. So
yeah, so then in this situation, you had this fake ass royal family who then stole some land, calling themselves a royal family, and then their descendants get to continue, the ones that gave the land to the Harvard to make the law school, and then their descendants get to claim to be,
what makes them fake?
Royal. I'm talking about the ones who sold the land to because they stole their land. They wasn't royal. There wasn't nothing royal about these people. A lot of these people were just faking. Just, man, don't get me started. But what I'm saying is, like, it's just like what you're saying. I agree with you. You're 100% right. It's some others pretending to be something that they're not, taking on the the identity of others. It's the switcheroo.
What you see? Because I'm gonna tell you, like, I mean, yeah, they had indigenous people on those parts of the North America during those times, and they had their sections that belonged to them. I mean, because I mean, if you really look at some of our old maps of America, like, I mean, the biggest part, like from Florida on over, like Florida, Alabama, like what we call the slave states, that a lot of that stuff out Louisiana, and like what we know to be the Louisiana Purchase, all the way up to the borders of Canada, and as far as Washington State was another section of like a country, like a different.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about these people who gave the money, who gave their land to build the Harvard Law School, and they were called a royal family. I'm saying that they weren't.
But they were really, like, they were a royal family in that sense of, in that sense, it wasn't like, John and, like, let's say Bob and Cecilia that just, come over and talk about their, a royal family. Like,
no, that's exactly what they were, and that's what I'm arguing, because it's not the people that you are talking about. These are pirates. These are people who just stole land.
Well,
they calling themselves royal.
It was sold land. Like, it was sold to, like, because there was people who owned like the part of Morocco. Like, Morocco had ownership in a good parts of the America.
Yeah,
the Eastern Seaboard.
I think we're talking about two different people. That's what I don't think you.
But they sold the land to. See, that's like North Carolina. Because I mean, if you really follow the history, North Carolina, like Charlotte, North Carolina, is named after Queen Charlotte, who married King Ferdinand.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, these are people, like, this is people who are of the royal family and these are black people. These are people that were.
And I agree. I agree with you, Pat. And I know what you're talking about. But that's not these people. The people you're talking about, and the ones that gave the land to the Harvard people to build the damn law school, are not the same people.
I beg to differ. I would love to see the difference. I mean, like,
these are not those people, because these people are the people you're talking about didn't do this slavery thing like that. They didn't do chattel slavery. They didn't let people be born into slavery. That was against their. No, they didn't. They did, like, indigenous. They did slavery in a different way. They, like, what chattel slavery means, that if your
just
kids
like
are
what
born
just like what we see today. Like, I mean, people walking around today are still slaves based on the laws that exist currently.
Right,
like this.
Right.
So
But
I mean, it's still slavery. Like, that to me.
But the people that you're talking about, those royal families, they didn't do that. They had slaves that would be like, if somebody was taken for prisoners of war.
Well, they take them on as family. A lot of them, because
right.
I get that, because I mean, when it was more, melanated people who had that type of power. No, they weren't so brutal. Like, it wasn't like the type of slavery that.
And it's but besides that part, it's a major difference. They would never have your child be born a slave, ever. There was never no circumstances. Never no circumstances like that.
All right. I mean, hey,
That's one of the things that was different.
I hear your argument. I think that I mean, I still stand on that being not the case, because I mean, a lot of people look at the laws of the United States as being different than, because the United States adopted the laws that were already here for them to be able to create their
Right.
their own government, like
Or
how
to have some legitimacy.
like how we created our own government or whatever. Like they took on they adopted pretty much the same word for word our constitutions that we had, and used it for themselves when they were setting up their own government. So that's the part that I think gets missed. So it was laws that already existed that were pre because I mean a lot of the original colonizers, I mean, people don't really speak of it, but a lot of them were of the royal families. They were nobles of Europe. You know what I'm saying? That came here, but they were black people. Like, you got to really think about where these royal families really began. The royal families come from black people. It's just that they started mixing.
But what I'm saying is, you have these people, you have groups of people who, just like we was talking about Semitic, and it's taking on something that's not what they're using real legitimacy to appear legitimate.
Well, no, but look, the Queen of England right now, Queen Elizabeth, she looks white as hell, but she has black lineage. Like, her family comes from, like, she is royal because of her black family.
I don't think it would matter. I don't think that's why I always be saying, like, at this point, how much does that matter, right? Because her being who she is oppressing people of color and natives and aboriginals peoples around the freaking world.
But that's the part that I think people are missing. That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, yeah, you can always try to write it off and act like that's not the case, but it is the case.
Well, everybody is black the further you go back. That's why I be like, that's a pointless art. That's pointless. Let me play this little DaBaby clip. Oh shit, my computer did something. Can y'all see me?
I see you.
My computer is black. I want to wrap it. I wanted to play that DaBaby clip and then wrap it. So I guess I'll just wrap it because I can't do that. Yeah. So yeah. So any final comments? You want to make a comment, JT or Pat? Either one of y'all?
Nah, I'm good. I ain't gonna lie, bro. My head hurts. All this France and like all this shit's making my head hurt.
Yeah. Well, this is a mental exercise that we're doing every night. So that's the reason why our brain gets bigger and we can articulate our thoughts better. And
yeah, I'm sending the doctor bill to you because my head is swelling right now.
Well, I'm sorry about that. So
you and King Chaka ENT owe me. Damn it. Oh damn. Okay, no, I just thought about something out, but
the Cash App. Everybody donate to the Cash App. I can't put it on the screen, but King Chaka ENT Cash App. $, King Chaka ENT. Send some money to the show. Help us out. Anyways, I gotta work a double tomorrow, and I gotta wind down after the show. So, but I will be here. I'll be tired. It probably won't be a long show, and I got a test on Monday, so I probably need to do some studying Sunday night. But I'll probably be editing, anyways. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being here, everybody listening. Thank you, JT, Pat, and everybody listening. I hope we learned something. Build a community. And the stuff, anything you hear us mention in the show, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, it makes you think. Look it up, bro. Look it up on your own. I was thinking about how they were saying about leaving the links, and I really would like to do that. But then the thing is, I do say look that shit up in my thing. So it's like I really would like to see people type things into their search bar, because I do that randomly. Like just randomly type something in your search bar, because how it pops up for you is how the universe is. You know, the road you go down is the road you're supposed to go down, and I think it's better that way, that you discover on your own. You know. So, you know, you hear us talk about something on the show, it's something you never heard of, or you disagree with, or you're like, where did they get that from? Or why did they even say that? Type the shit in your search bar and see what pops up. All right, y'all. Peace and love. Y'all have a good night. Thank y'all for joining. My screen is black, so I can't even exit. Let me see. Control Alt. Something. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. At least the screen's not black. Wait. Oh, y'all still there? Let me play this clip.
I am.
If it lets me, is it gonna let me do this? No, I'm just gonna
hear
wrap
me?
this. My screen is freezing the fuck up. It froze up again. Fuck. I can't exit until the screen comes back.
And you have to.
There it goes.
I don't know. I gotta look at the tape because I'm just saying, like, man, what's up with the baby? The baby has been handled the baton of hate. Every month is something new with this.
All right, y'all. I'm having technical difficulties. I can't even end the show. Peace and love. Y'all have a good night. JT, you gonna be back tomorrow?
I'll be back tomorrow, brother.
All right, I'm gonna send you a link.
All right, one.